A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen dinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Pop up the cork, have a glass of wine, hush they'll say, I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
All right, we started on time. I knew we could do it.
Oh. I shouldn't say that, Win. I'll demonetize you immediately.
That's it. You've said it in the first minute of the stream.
The robots don't know drinker. They think I said foie. All right.
Yeah. They can't penetrate that Welsh accent,
Absolutely.
So you're probably okay. But yeah, I thought it's nice to do that for a change because, you know, we're used to that minimum threshold of like 5 minutes late or something. And yeah, we surprised everyone by starting on time for a change.
We should have saved it for the 100th episode. We could have said the special deal this time is we start on time. How about that?
Yeah.
Shocking everybody. Now we're going to do something different.
We'll do something different. Like we just won't start at all. Like everyone will just be waiting for hours. Surprise! We're not doing it.
Special edition.
Yeah. I'm gonna stream like one of the dogs eating a bone or something. That'll be fine.
And you know what? The audience wouldn't be upset about that.
I think they might be all right. Yeah, I had like several hundred people tuning in to watch Lara eating a bone at one point. It's just it's all content. Anyway, well, here we are, and we've got our panel of guests ready to go. So I think we should probably start bringing them in. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First up, we have got Mr. H of the reviewing sort. Welcome back to Open Bar, my friend.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite. Always a pleasure.
Hello.
Nice. I keep looking at your background and I'm like, God, there's so much going on there. I don't know where to look. Like, I feel like there's lots of cool little details and stuff there, but I just can't pick it all out.
It's organized chaos. I've changed my setup so you can see a bit more of it now. But
don't say that name.
Yeah.
I still love that Alien and Predator poster as well.
It is really nice.
It's the best. It's really good. I do like that one. Very good.
Yeah. Nice one, man. Thank you for joining us for this. Next up, we have got coming all the way from New Zealand, so who knows if his internet's going to hang in there. We'll try him and see what happens. It is Echo Chamberlain.
Hey, team, coming to you from a white void today, which coincidentally is Sweet Baby Ink's term for a Caucasian person. So I'm here to offer the open bar narrative consultation design, risk assessment, and sensitivity reading, if you want it. And if my ideas aren't heard, then I'm going to have a coffee with your marketing team and terrify them with the possibility of what could happen if I don't get what I want.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, actually. That was quite an interesting revelation from the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. Can we even call her the CEO? She's probably like the most senior, sensitive person within the hierarchy. Whatever, though. She made some interesting comments about this exact thing, about how to essentially blackmail your way into companies. And it's so funny because, you know, people are doing the digging now with a company like Sweet Baby Inc. And I guess nothing that's ever gone up on the internet is safe now from the research that people are prepared to do. And this is one of those very telling remarks that she made. And it's a few years old now, isn't it? She was speaking at like a games developers conference from 2019, I think. Mm-hmm. So it goes back a ways, but people have tracked it down, and it was a very telling statement that she made. You pretty much summarized it there. You know, if people are hesitant within a studio to bring in a company like mine, the best way to do it is get a hold of your marketing people and put the fear of God into them of what you will do and what will happen if you don't bring us in, and then you'll pretty much force their hands. Which is a nice way of doing it. You know, if you have to force your way into any company, it's always a sure sign that you're purveying a quality product, you know?
Oh, dear.
The first thing is that going back in time, like they've set the standards. There was a woman who's trying to get the top editor role at Teen Vogue a couple of years ago. And people dug up tweets from when she was in her first year of college. And that was what got her cancelled. So I think we're okay if we want to go back in time a little bit and see the kind of messages that's been going on here. And they're pretty bad. Like, it's pretty emphatic and it's pretty brazen. This kind of casual, condescending approach to white guys, referring to them as picky babies if you mollycoddle them too much. The receipts are there. And this isn't like Gamergate, Like Gamergate was more shadowy. There was some misogyny in there mixed up with some genuine sentiment. This is more clear cut, and so it's a different kind of paradigm.
Just it's actually worth it. I just want to bring in Disparu as well because he's just appeared backstage. He was slightly late joining us, so welcome, Disparu.
Hello, always great to be back. Especially on a week where I've spent most of it amazed by just how honest people will be when they think they're surrounded by people who agree with them, and then they will just say everything out loud. You brought up the whole idea that they're picky babies. It's like when she said we kept giving them stuff that they wanted, and they wanted more of it, and they liked it, and then we decided we should stop doing that. It's like, they developed standards when they had good entertainment, and they don't want it ruined. And she's like, that's a bad thing. We need to start ruining the entertainment for them.
Well, it was such a terrible comparison anyway, because a baby, you're feeding them nutritious food. They're not paying you, right? The baby's not paying you money. You can't say the consumer's a picky baby because you're giving them what they want and they want something that they want. They're paying for it. It's a privilege to be able to earn money off people, right? Like, they're literally paying for a product. You should give them the product. It's supply and demand. But it's such a terrible analogy. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Did you see the out-and-out racism from the other people that worked for?
The classic
Sweet Baby Inc. Just like, I had a nightmare that I was a white person. You're like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Fucking hell.
That's going back a few years. And again, it's like, if you were to use any other demographic there, you'd be banned from the internet for life, and you'd probably be in jail.
Swap white out for anything. Just anything.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, and I don't know, man. It's like there's this implicit understanding that you can just straight up despise white people, and it's okay. When exactly did that paradigm shift? I don't fully understand how that's suddenly become acceptable.
Well, there's a few years people would pick. Turnover, but I mean, it's been gross whenever it shows its ugly head, and then you have the whole but you can't be racist against white people thing, which is equally ugly.
Oh yeah, one of the senior editors at Kotaku had that to say, but we'll get onto that shortly because they've got a whole fantastic article that they've produced to run defense for Sweet Baby Inc. But
I hope you got the PC Gamer one as well, because there's multiple outlets that are now running defense for them.
Yeah, I would imagine they took a day or so to get their story straight, all collaborate together, agree on a party line, and then away they went.
The great battle of our time.
Yeah.
They got Fandom Wire on their side. The Insomniac's Wolverine narrative director, Mary Kinney, her came out very strongly. So getting another narrative director is the sort of person you want to go to as your go-to relatable person on the interwebs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is about a company like Sweet Baby Inc. They are clearly the target for this. Like they've become the most prominent of these consultancy firms that people are now aware of. And I guess it started with that Steam group where they just tracked all of the games that they've been working on. And rather than just letting it go, like this company decided they had to try and tackle this and silence it. And it's just the Streisand effect for everyone to see. Suddenly they've got 100,000, 150,000 subscribers now to that group.
It's over 200,000 now. Yeah, I think it's top 5 or top 6 in the entire world. Of
fantastic work.
And you know what's so funny about this? Sweet Baby Inc., they were muddling around in the background doing all this stuff for a very long period of time. Do you know what was the straw that broke the camel's back? You murdered Batman. You killed Batman.
That tracks.
I think a lot of the changes they made, you could almost pass them off as, that's a bit weird or that's slightly annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker's a bitch now, and he has to leave and go find himself, so he just turns over everything to Miles Morales, because Miles Morales is literally the greatest thing that's ever happened to superheroes since the written word was invented, apparently. Okay, fine, but that feels like just on trend with the whole industry. Like, there's a real push to make Miles Morales the thing now. Okay, fine, I can live with that. But yeah, this is where it just became mask off. Yeah, we're just going to straight up murder Batman. We're going to kill all the members of the Justice League, and we're going to turn their deaths into a joke. Because that's
there's been commentary as to who's responsible exactly for the individual pieces of writing. A lot of people, like the bio entries for some of the heroes, people are like, that's got to be Sweet Baby Inc. And then other people are like, I'm not sure how much of it is them versus like, was it Rocksteady, right? Like how much do we know who's doing what? And ultimately, I said this on one of the open bots before. It's just like, fuck it, throw them all in. As in, like, I don't care if like Rocksteady's only 30% responsible for the writing in that game. The writing is fucking horrendous. And I think there was a tweet saying like, no, the writers involved on like Arkham City were involved in this game. And it's like, no. Fucking played Arkham City.
You're 100% right though, in that there's a collective responsibility for this. So regardless of whether Sweet Baby Inc. in this particular case wrote all of that, or they had relatively, light touches to it, it doesn't matter. The fact is the end product is as it is. This is a symptom of where the Western gaming industry is now. There's a permissive element that allows stuff like this to happen. And that they would do even more if they thought they could get away with it. The only problem now is they got caught because they pushed just a little bit too far, too fast. And now people are pushing back against them. But they would absolutely have done more if they thought they could have gotten away with it.
I think Mr. H Review is going to nail it. It's what they did to Batman specifically. That went viral as hell. And it's Batman. They don't do that shit to Batman. You don't do it without consequence. What's funny as well, categories, you had people being like, "Oh, so you can't kill Batman ever." And it's like, don't test me. Like, don't tell me this is like, oh, you can't kill Batman at all. It's like, that's not what that was. Pissing all over him.
Someone made an animation of how the scene should have really gone, where he basically just uses the different game skills to get out of it. And just kills all of them. Well, not all of them. It's way better than the actual game was, but
the thing about Sweet Baby, right, is, and consultancy firms like them, is you're right, it's game studios should be lumped in with it as well. All of them should be. Anyone that's produced any of this stuff, anyone that's working with these consultancy firms, because they bring in a consultancy firm, regardless whether the consultancy firm, coerced them into it or threatened them, or whatever. It's a confirmation bias system. So they have a certain element of funding, which will be from ESG, DEI, and that's the current narrative that they're looking to do. So they're like, let's make this game, DEI and ESG. And then they get this consultancy firm. They're like, hi, guys, is this DEI enough? Is this ESG enough? And they're like, yeah, it is. So this is just this big cyclical circle jerk of wokeness, essentially. This confirmation bias constantly. The game studios hires the firm to confirm that they're doing the right thing. It's like, yeah, no, you should all be just binned in the bin. Go away.
Well, some helpful soul has actually compiled a list of some of the top consultancy firms, because like I said, Sweet Baby Inc. is just one example out of many, and they've got it here. They're at the top: Sweet Baby Inc., Black Girl Gamers, Hit Detection, Balance Patch, Silverstring Media, Stone Meyer Games.
Did you say Black Girl Gamers?
Yep. Yeah. I was just reading that.
That's they chose that title.
That's what I'm just reading it verbatim.
Okay.
There's another one called Gamer X, but Gamer spelled Gay.
Ooh.
That specializes in gay representation in video games. You'd be surprised to know. Dragon Baby, Anita Sarkeesian. Yeah, sure, okay. Weird Beast, Infinite Ammo Inc., Gamma Space, and Cozy Comic Games, all part of this same network of consultancy firms that will DEI the shit out of your game if you let them.
It isn't an issue of like whether it's an external company or not. Like if you take it into the movie thing, Disney does this just in-house. When they're a big enough corporation, they can employ their own staff to do this with all the jobs. The Oscars enforces it through their requirements for the movies and things. So it's definitely the principle behind what you're doing and why you're doing it, and the effect it has on the end product as a whole. And it's why when people are like, well, there's other companies, it's like, yeah, but going after Sweet Baby like this sends the message that the customer base doesn't want it to this severe degree. And if you go and employ any other company like this, you will get the same response. The moment people find out, you will get the same response. And I posted before, I think a company should be more scared of its audience than they are of journalists. And that's what needs to happen. They need to, the moment they start thinking that they want to go down this road, they need people in offices to go, we can't do that. The players hate it, and you will bankrupt our company. And until you get that attitude, they will always be more scared of journalists, which enables these people to come in and start saying, we'll just scare you, because you know what the journalists will say, you know what they'll say on Twitter, and they need to be more scared of one side than the other.
The thing is like, that I wonder, though, is, say 10 years ago, when Gamergate was happening, right? Games journalism was a lot more powerful than it is now. You know, sites like Polygon and Kotaku actually held some sway over the industry, and people still listen to them. Now it's 2024, and they are like one step away from bankruptcy and just getting shut down. They are irrelevant at this point. And I just wonder, like, how scared anyone is of companies like that now, of news outlets like that. They just don't have the pull that they once did.
It could go more mainstream, though.
The narrative has shifted, that they've kind of lost their influence and control that they once had. And I think that Hogwarts Legacy was a real precursor to that, where they kind of they had a blind spot. They thought that the activists who would come in and they would have the sway and they would control the narrative or be able to sway the narrative. But it turns out that the thing sold 22 million copies. And so people just resisted that. So it came down to the fan base, and the media and the activists kind of lost that narrative. And so now I think they're conscious of that. And in this situation, I thought they were very sluggish to respond. There haven't been that many outlets coming overtly to bat for Sweet Baby Inc.
But it's also, so I mean, games journalism in games, and what you're not really acting like a journalist in gaming anyway. Quite frankly, it's just that's nonsense. And by that very virtue, they were, generally speaking, have been and continue to be mouthpieces for studios. And so when the void is a void, let's call it that, between the audiences and the studios just got bigger and bigger and bigger, this huge rift between what the studios wanted to make and then the audience wanted to play, it became more apparent that these outlets were just mouthpieces for the studio more and more and more. And so you just, they're butting heads against one another. So I don't think studios are necessarily afraid of these games journalists, because they're just mouthpieces for them anyway, in the same way that a lot of the sort of film websites, the media outlets for film, they just produce what studios give them to produce. They don't drop exclusives. Very seldom do they actually drop, things early and leaks and stuff like this, unless it's been approved. It's all corporate approved. It's narrative approved, by a studio approved. And that's, I think, the sort of veneer has been lifted from that because of content creation, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, whatever content creator it is, even just someone on Twitter, tweeting away. That whole veneer between, what's actually, an exclusive and actually leaked versus what's just given to them to produce and just spew out there because the studio wanted them to. It's completely gone now.
I do wonder if there's an element of people within that journalism industry and gaming that are very ideologically driven, because I always got the impression that some of them desperately wanted to be political correspondents, and they wanted to write about big issues that matter, but the only job they could get was in the games industry. But they've ported that desire over to what they write. It's why you would get reviews of things like the latest Tomb Raider game that would say things like, well, the game fails to grapple with the post-colonialist legacy of Lara Croft raiding indigenous people's valuables to steal for herself. Like, that's got nothing to do with the review. That's your political activism speaking, because that's what you desperately want to talk about. It's just no one cares what you have to say about it.
Yeah, if you grow up as a millennial or Gen Z and you've been told time and again that the spirit and your aspiration is to be disruptive, and then you end up, instead of getting the political beat, you get the gaming beat, but you still got all that energy seething there, so you got to channel it.
Yeah, somehow. I think it's just that desperation. There was a hardware review of the PlayStation 5 I remember reading, where they just go off on this mad tangent about, like, well, at a time when America is burning down and seething with racial hatred and like cops murdering people, I can't believe I'm talking about a PlayStation, but here I am, and then just go straight into the hardware review. And I just thought, what the fuck am I reading?
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of nailed it there, to be honest, with the sort of political activism element, right? And this corresponds to movies as well. Same with games. When a lot of these companies are predominantly media-wise controlled by left-wing individuals who have a certain idealistic outlook on the world, but you're in a capitalist society, you still have to provide people what they want to pay, what they actually are willing to pay for. And so this is why it's always going to fail eventually. Like, it's going to fail eventually.
Yeah, why it's fallen apart. The wing of the money being brought in, the wing of how much engagement it actually has, be it like social media, people talking about it, people spreading it, and then critical analysis of like critical appraisal, like how's it doing? All three of them have crashed down miserably for a lot of these projects. There's nothing left. So like, what do you have? And it's just trying to keep themselves purported with I guess people in similar positions. They're all trying to keep themselves up before it just crashes down, which, I mean, it all seems like shells now,
We don't even have to make that much of a great game for it to be successful. Helldivers 2, like, I'm not saying it's not a great game. It is a great game, but it's not exactly breaking the mold, is it? Do you know what I mean?
There's nothing crazy about it.
No, but it's dishing up, like, what is your core audience like? And it's, like, dare I say it,
Exactly.
I imagine the bulk of the gamers who are playing Helldivers 2 are probably men, and they're probably young men. What do they like? They like guns. They like shooting alien bug things that are, like, coming at them in tidal waves, and they like things like the Terminator movies. Okay, we'll just throw all those things into a game. Perfect. And we'll do like a bit of squad-based multiplayer action so that they can play with their friends. Great. Easy money.
That's it.
It's just simple formulas, like, to make people happy. It's not difficult.
Bringing, what was it, controlled democracy or whatever to the
Managed democracy.
Managed democracy. That's it.
Where's our democracy officer to keep troops in line?
Oh, it's so much fun. It's just funny on that topic, the insane conversations that happened as a result of Helldivers with like Starship Troopers and all this stuff. And it's like, you may enjoy playing this game, but remember, you shouldn't be a fascist. And you're like, fuck you, I want to bring democracy to the bug world.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like when I recently was streaming the Tomb Raider remastered series, and you got this little cautionary statement from Crystal Dynamics the first time you boot the game up, saying we're deeply ashamed of the culturally insensitive depictions in this game. And I was just looking at that like, what the fuck? Like, you're still profiting off it, so you're clearly happy with it. You're not going to change it. Why put that statement in just so you can like score a few brownie points? Just give me guns, give me boobs, and give me like the chance to shoot a bunch of endangered species while stealing indigenous artifacts, so that I can put them in a museum and keep them actually safe. Sorry for that crime.
I think that if you're doing a job interview for like a Tomb Raider, one of your questions should be, do you actually like Tomb Raider? And if you don't know, I'm ashamed of it. Well, if you're fired by, like, these are very basic things. Yeah.
Well, that's why in the remakes of it, with brand new Lara Croft, who's nothing like the original, actually raiding tombs is a kind of optional side quest that you're made to feel guilty for doing, and it's almost like you really have to seek it out. The main quest is just like, oh no, I touched a magical thing that's going to blow up the world, and I'm really sad, and and I've got daddy issues, and I want to have a good cry, but also I need to kill 50 guys at the same time, and my friends need my help. Like, it's nothing to do with Tomb Raider. It doesn't have any of the elements that made that game so fun and interesting and compelling. It's just like girl with
the hiring meme, and it applies to Tomb Raider. We'll be like, welcome to hiring for Tomb Raider. What do you know about Tomb Raider? And they go, what's Tomb Raider? You're hired. It's like well, what?
Well, that's our approach with source material all over the place. Like, there's whole compilations of people out there saying, we had no prior knowledge of the source material. Like, that's a sophisticated, cool, disruptive kind of thing to do. We're going to start it afresh. Take this concept and take it whichever way we want.
You can really subvert expectations if you do that. But there was a great quote there from the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., where she said, right, despite the changing faces of audiences, despite the changing faces of conferences like this one, we still look at our core demographics and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, and we cater almost exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them like a picky baby. We feed them the same thing that we know they love, and we keep feeding it. We're like, here you go. We know you like this. Eat it. So when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which would be like, oh, no, thank you. I don't want this. And we've actually done this for so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do, just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games. Because, when you're investing $100 million to make a game that takes like 5 or 6 years to develop, you definitely want to just do what you want to do. Don't think about your customer. Don't care about the market or the audience. Just go crazy. Indulge yourself. It's all about
tiring
you.
How much they pretend there's no room in the market for doing experimental things. Like, that's where IPs often begin. Plenty of them. Plenty of the greatest ones of all time. It's like a place where it's like, hey, I thought about this and this, and I put it together, and, it's not exactly graphically amazing, or it's maybe a relatively small game, takes like 4 hours to complete, but people are like, this is really fucking cool. Everyone buys it, the dev company gets more money, they make a bigger vision, then it becomes a huge franchise or something like that. We have plenty of stories that reflect that. But then on top of that, it's funny you bringing that up about gaming in general, because Suicide Squad, it's like, if it was a game where Batman was the only one that escaped Brainiac's mind control because he's fucking Batman, and then you have to spend the whole game freeing the rest of the Justice League, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone here had picked it up. Sounds like a cool game. Yeah. Oh, well. And it's like, why do you hate money? And then they're like, well, you babies always want to have everything you're familiar with or whatever. It's like, if you're going to do something hyper subversive and deconstructive, you have to do it fucking well.
You have to do it well, but you probably also have to do it on a low budget where the stakes are lower, because you're not going to be able to get away with that with a AAA game. There's too much at stake with something like that.
It's rare, yeah.
And this attitude as well of like, oh, it's so unfair that we have to like cater to our customers. Like, oh, it'd be like going into a fucking restaurant and ordering a steak, and they give you like roast chicken or something. Like, oh, well, that's what the chef wanted to make. It's what he felt like making. Why are you constraining his creativity? Because I'm paying for your fucking bill. Like, you give me what I want, or I'll leave.
And for the record, it still wouldn't have been good because it was made by them. But even if
it would be like an uncooked chicken that gives you botulism, and you'll be shitting your guts out for the next week.
Well, that's the thing, though. Your assumption is that money was the like a motivating factor for them. At no point in their speech did she mention sales or money. Not once.
No, I'm saying, why isn't it a motivating factor?
Well, this is the thing. It's probably one of the problems with hiring an external company. Because at least if you're a member of that company, you might be invested in the company because it's your job. But they just get hired on a thing, change all the script, and then go on to something else. They don't really care whether the game sells or not. It might affect their reputation, but it doesn't seem to. Their entire point was, we make specific people feel joy. And she actually argued all over the place. She was like, well, if we represent people, they feel joy. But we also have to get these people away from thinking that they should be represented, because shouldn't they feel joy for other people when they feel joy? And she basically took every position on the board, argued against it, and all pointed it towards, you need to hire us. It was a very strange thing overall. But she did say, why should our art be constrained just because some babies throw a tantrum?
Yeah. It was characterizing your audience like the plant from Little Shop of Horrors, and saying that your Caucasian young males lack the emotional maturity to be able to evolve and develop for themselves about what they might like. So you ought to be able to intervene. It's pretty extraordinary stuff. And from my point of view, in writing and in publishing and in other creative spheres, when you have sensitivity readers who have to go overwork and look for things that could be problematic, they're the picky babies. Those are the picky babies.
They are the fucking scourge of modern entertainment. Like, I do not understand how a position like that came to exist in the first place. Nothing. I would be willing to bet my life savings on this. No product has been made better by the addition of a sensitivity reader. You have not improved the artistic merit of anything that you've made with the input of sensitivity readers.
I'm also fascinated by this, the baby's comment. It's like, you are free to make your insane nonsense crap thing. We're free not to buy it. This is how it works.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. That goes back to the whole, sort of communist, hyper left-leaning focus on trying to subvert everyone. But it doesn't work in a capitalist society when your majority audience would just immediately reject that. And that's what's been happening, a profound rejection. Sweet Baby Inc. just dying on the altar for all of this stuff. Right. They took their website down and they started to change stuff and hide stuff. And
they've rewritten their mission statement, haven't they? Because I'm pretty sure they've removed mention of the word diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they've changed it up.
This is the Bud Light effect. They'll never live that down now. That's it. It's done.
No, they'd have to fucking make a new company.
Oh no, they'll be done. Like, even if they make a new company, internet autists will be all over it. All right, gaming internet autists. That's it. You're done. They're firmly in the crosshairs.
I said that on Side Scrollers yesterday when I was getting interviewed about it. It's like they are the one group of people that you absolutely never want to piss off because they've got a lot of time on their hands. They are super passionate about what they do, and they will dedicate as much of that time as necessary to holding you account for everything that you've done.
That was Gabe's quote from Steam. It was never lie to the internet. They will remember everything you've ever said. Deconstruct your spin. You are not smarter than the internet. That's one of the first lessons we learned.
You know who thinks they are smarter than the internet, though, is Kotaku, which is fantastic at this point. After I just got done talking about how the legacy media is largely irrelevant to the conversation, they did decide that they had to pitch in with it eventually and give their take on it. And I can just read you a few highlights from their amazing article about this. So, Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what some gamers think it does. So, late last month, one of the company's consultants discovered a Steam group dedicated to detecting games that they'd worked on. The purpose? To encourage people to avoid those games because the group had deemed it was pushing a woke agenda by working towards greater diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the Steam group has now got more than 100,000 followers. That's actually more like 200,000 now, and that's just in the space of a couple of days. But they're saying it's not the largest narrative design company in the games industry, nor is it solely responsible for the characters and stories in recent high-profile releases like Alan Wake 2, God of War Ragnarok, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. But good luck telling some gamers that. Now, that's just misrepresenting the argument, because no one's saying these people are entirely responsible for everything that happens in those games. That's hyperbole. They're saying that to undermine the fundamental argument, which is that consultancy firms like this are a negative influence on the gaming industry, regardless if they have a small effect or a massive one.
I would say anyone with these ideas has a negative influence.
It's legitimizing the idea of them. That's the issue.
Yeah.
They say the conversation around Sweet Baby Inc. has ignited a fundamentally misinformed Gamergate-esque firestorm. And I know that they were super excited that they could start invoking that again.
Yeah.
Because that's just like, I don't know, man. That's like the Palpatine of the video game journalism world. Somehow Gamergate returns. Its employees have faced rampant harassment as a direct result. Industry figures have had to deny allegations that it comes in and completely changes their games. I spoke with several employees of Sweet Baby Inc. to learn what the company actually does and how the misunderstanding of its role in the industry highlights a far broader problem. The problem is the industry.
I was going to say that part there is a fundamental misrepresentation too. When they're like, well, you know, some of the employees have had harassment. No, some of the employees on Twitter literally launched a harassment campaign to get the curator group taken down. It wasn't. Here's
a really telling bit, right? Because this author decided to do some real investigative journalism, and this is hard-hitting stuff. They delve deep, man. So I managed to spend an hour in the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Discord before I was booted from the space, likely because I identified myself as a Kotaku journalist. You don't say. In it, members shared posts referencing feminist frequency, founder Anita Sarkeesian, Marcus Aurelius quotes, and pictures of idealized female bodies in games. This is the shocking stuff that goes on within this Discord server.
There's also logs of her asking, why are none of your real names and pictures and photographs associated with your Discord accounts?
Why can't you post your name and address for me to note down and spread on the internet? Why won't you do that? But I love this here as well. One image showed several pictures of the protagonist Eve from Korean developer Shift Up's Stellar Blade, juxtaposed against female characters from Overwatch, Forspoken, and Life is Strange. Embrace tradition, reject modernity is emblazoned on the collage. It's like they've just gone on the internet for the first time. Like... And this is meant to be like the most shocking, appalling stuff that they can come up with. It's like, they're pointing out that female games characters are fugly when they come from Western developers, and they're generally quite attractive from Japanese ones. Shocking news, I know.
News at 10.
Remember when they did that Dove body positivity video? And the plot of it is that she's out there being heroic, and then, oh no, we're revealed that it's actually she's uncomfortable in that space, and she has the tight costume, and then she goes back and relaxes. On a tweet, I took that thing and I just literally put it in reverse, and it tells the exciting story of a fat, lazy woman who then empowers herself to put on a costume and go out and have fun adventures and be empowering. So that's literally if you just put it in reverse.
There was a great thread doing the rounds on X the other day. I can't believe I called it X, but there we go.
No.
I've fallen victim to it. But yeah, it was they used AI art to redesign some of these characters that are ugly as fuck, like the chick from Fable that's coming out, and they made them look appealing. And it just ignited this firestorm of people that were so indignant about it. Like, how dare you want to see attractive people in your media? This is an outrage, sir, I say. And again, it's just a symptom of what does the customer want? Well, most people generally like looking at attractive people. It's not a shocking revelation. And so they would rather see attractive characters in their media, whether it's TV shows, movies, or video games. Especially if they have to spend a lot of time looking at that character, and especially if that character is the opposite sex from them, because they probably are going to want to find them attractive. Again, not a shocking revelation there. That's just how the human brain works. And yeah, it's treated as this bizarre contradiction where you can't have, say, an attractive character of the opposite sex and take them seriously. Those two things are mutually exclusive. And so the only way you can see them as a real person with depth and nuance is if they're ugly as fuck. I don't understand that thinking, but there it is. That seems to be their rationale for it.
And a lot of the comments were really weird. Like, the people were going, the AI photos aren't better. It's like, we've got eyes. You're just bumping up against reality and trying to gaslight me that what I like is wrong in some way. And then there was the other half that were desperately trying to shame people. It's like, well, I mean, if you like someone looking like that, you must be insane. Your brain has rotted by being on the internet for too long. It's like, really is just the lowest form of... I wasn't sure whether these were real people or bots because their arguments were that bad. And it just seems to be... They're desperately trying to control people, not really knowing why or having any ammunition, so just reaching for anything you can. And they don't seem to be able to understand why it doesn't work. It's like you are arguing against literally thousands of years of evolution here. We all know the truth. You can't just lie to people about it.
Well, so if your gameplay environment is just normal reality, then I guess you can put those social issues in there. But if your gameplay environment is you're surrounded by zombie hordes and you're like trying to shoot them, and then the reality you're in is ridiculous and out of sync with everyday reality. So bringing beauty standards and social issues into a context that is deliberately like a crazy carnival and doesn't reflect life is kind of pretty stupid.
It does seem, though, a lot of it is about lowering standards. Like, that would be about, why don't you have lower standards of beauty? Why can't you have lower standards of what people should look like? And in the Sweet Baby Ink thing, one of her things was, well, we keep feeding them what they want. But now, when we're giving them something they don't want, they're getting annoyed at it. They shouldn't be getting annoyed at it. It's like, how dare you have standards, not just accept whatever I give you? Whether it's destruction of beauty standards or anything else, it seems to just be if you won't just accept the slop that we want to give you, there's something wrong with you, not our inability to make something you want.
I think there's an element of misery loves company as well, where, especially when if you were to meet a lot of the people who complain most about, characters being too attractive in games in real life, I'm going to guess most of them aren't exactly oil paintings,
Yes.
And, it always reminded me of that article I saw. It was like, going to the gym too much could put white men at risk of heart attacks and death at a young age. Yeah. And I thought, I'm going to guess that that's written by a fatty. And, it's just like somebody who just doesn't want to have to put the effort in to try and be in better shape. It's like, well, I'll just guilt everyone into not exercising then, so I won't feel bad about myself.
Well, if you have body positive Dove advertisements where it's large women in their underwear celebrating and being empowered in their bodies, that door should swing both ways. So if morning commuter traffic is going under an overpass, and there's a gigantic billboard of a 40-year-old white dude with like a huge gut and like a hairy body in his underwear as like a symbol of what a man could be, then maybe they should have the door swing both ways.
I did want to point out one thing as well that came up in the course of this Kotaku article, because they put out the article on their Twitter feed. People started asking them questions about it. One of them was from Flip the USB. Says, does this article mention anything about the Sweet Baby Inc. CEO being a full-blown racist? Because I have a feeling the article doesn't mention it. And Alyssa Mercant, who's the senior editor at Kotaku, says, hi, you can't be racist against white people. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
And
I can see the community notes where the community just does like, you can, in fact.
Yeah.
Well,
fucking love community notes.
Locked down a Twitter account as well, which is the most telling, because you probably just got, again, a bunch of riled up internet autists going at her. But it's just so fundamentally wrong to be like
she's the kind of person that would enjoy having a moral superiority over people she would deem racist while spewing racist shit.
But that's what these people are, because they all see color. They segment people into boxes based on immutable characteristics. They are racist. They are sexist. They are these things. They don't just see people and base them on their merits and who they are as individuals. It's, no, you're this because you're black, or no, you're this because you're a woman. It's not that they could define that, but they are. These people are insane. They're absolutely insane, and just the lowest of the low degenerates. If
anyone saw Kim Bel-Air's hour-long, she's at a symposium or something, and she does this long, tedious monologue talking about her childhood and how she saw her identity. And then when she started the game and she discovered that she could customize the character that she could have, so she didn't have to be a white dude. She could finally customize it so it looked like her. But then she had to fight against her own internalized prejudice, and she started making white guys, and then she had to overcome that. And then she could finally empower herself to create a character who looked like her. And then she said, no, that's not good enough. Customized people who look like me should be the default. So it wasn't enough. And it just made me think, like, if it was Wade going to Total Recall and like the default you start off with is like a disabled black lesbian, and then you have to go from there to find the one you want.
It's the perfect example of it will never be enough. Like if you say to people like that, so what would it take for you to just be happy? What would it take for you to say, you know what, job done. We've fixed the gaming industry and I just feel like it's in a good place now. I don't need to do this stuff anymore. You would never get an answer because they would always want more. It doesn't matter how many concessions the industry makes, and it doesn't matter how much you try to cater to them. They'll always find something else to complain about. They'll always find another barrier that needs to be broken down because it's all they live for.
Yeah, that's the fallacy of wokeness overall, though, isn't it? Is that it will never be enough. The goalposts always have to shift because once you've gone from one thing, you have to go to the next, and it's an ever expanding sort of search for this idealistic utopia that they apparently want to create by destroying everything.
Well, that's the thing. It's not often, it's about, because she spoke a lot about giving certain people joy, but there was a lot of it that just seemed to be, I want to take away what you like. Like, you could have just built stuff for other people, but no, it was specifically, we have to teach these people that what they like is wrong and give them something different until they like it. And as this is Kotaku, they've been doing this for years. Back in 2021, there was a Patricia Hernandez article when she became deputy editor, and it's my favorite article of theirs because it basically admits how they killed their own site, but a lot of it is her complaining. When she goes, it does not matter if a website is considered progressive. It says everything, that when writing about certain issues, video game websites often have to take care in explaining basic concepts like racism is real. We have to explain power dynamics over and over again. It's not just informing our readership, it's a tacit acknowledgement that our audience has a specific background. And consequently, reality means that as we cover more mainstream subjects or marginalized identities, the writing is not for the wider audience. This haunts me. The presumed reader sounds nothing like me, and yet here I am leading a video game website. It's not about being woke, it's about survival. And it's so over the top, but she is entirely serious.
How do you end up with people like this working for you, for your company?
That was like the chief editor.
Exactly, yeah. But who runs a video game website like this that ostensibly was once about talking about video games and reviewing them, all that good stuff, that ends up bringing people like this in? How do they even get in the first place? It's mind-boggling.
I think a lot of it is they if you have these ideas, you want to be surrounded by other people that have these ideas, and so if you have a HR department that's headed by somebody that thinks this way, they'll just hire people that agree with them. We saw with G4 the questions they were asking. Why should we cancel Batman? Like that came through the HR. That was the hiring, and then before you know it, you end up with a company that all thinks the same way, and then there's no stopping it.
It's amazing, but it's great to see it. It's great to see it run smack bang into reality, capitalist reality, again and again and again. And it's there's an element of Schadenfreude there for sure. You took all of these things, you destroyed them, and now you're unemployed. That's how the economy works, baby. In the marketplace of ideas, you are bankrupt, and you deserve to be.
Yeah. I've said it before. This idea that just because something doesn't feature a form of diversity in it doesn't mean that it necessarily suffers from a lack of diversity. It can just people gravitate to certain things. There's certain demographics for certain brands, and it doesn't mean that you can couch yourself in terms of being a martyr because you're in this world that doesn't feature you. It's because you're in that world because it's market-driven forces that have created that. We're quite open to diversity. We like the diversity. We just don't want diversity to be substitutive, so it replaces existing characters for no particular reason, or we don't want it to be incongruous, so it doesn't look out of place. So you don't have a Viking lady who's black. These are pretty simple conventions, and it's a pretty simple bar to meet.
Yeah, it's 100% contextual with stuff like this. When you're creating narratives, if it doesn't make sense historically or it doesn't make sense contextually, you shouldn't do it. It doesn't matter what quotas you think you need to meet. The only quota you need to meet is the quality of your story. That's it. And if it doesn't allow for diversity, then you don't do it. Simple as that.
Well, you need to do diversity through programming, not casting. So obviously that it's the same. It's very, very similar representation in gaming as well. So if you apply it to gaming and media in general, diversity through programming offers a much more rich and a sort of a wide array of different narratives that can be put out there. We spoke briefly about Shogun, for instance, right? That's diversity through programming. Very seldom do you see feudal Japanese stories out there, right? That's very diverse, but it's not diverse in terms of casting. It doesn't need to be, because if you diversify your programming, you will, by proxy, diversify your casting throughout the programming. But because we diversify through casting, everything is homogenous. Nothing is actually diverse. We all know that there's going to be this archetype. We all know there's going to be this archetype. There's going to be this character. And we all roll our eyes and go, well, of course there is. Always
just give them one more chance. They'll make Harley Quinn work, okay?
Jesus. Oh, that's a character I can't wait to see fuck off. Like, yeah, they have tried so hard to push her, and no one cares.
No one cares.
But that's the thing, right? So with games and movies, so you seeing this sort of message pushed onto movies, we've seen that time and time again. Now, movies is a broader market. There's so many more people that go to the movies than just, say the individuals that buy games. But that's why it's coming up against a really big brick wall when it comes to gaming, because the market is very niche, actually. There's not a massive demographic that play games. And so you're now trying to push up and subvert against that. Quite, it's a big base, but in terms of, is it broad in terms of its demographic? No, not really. What do they like? Like a very specific thing. So you should probably keep giving it to them, but you're not. And now you're going to die as a result as an industry.
Well, I think as well, like, as I pointed out the other night, it's a young person's industry as well. Like, your consumers are generally under 30 easily. Probably the bulk of them are like under 20. And the people that play it the most, it's probably going to be young men. And they fucking hate being pandered to and lectured and told what to think. And the worst group in the world that you can try and mold to your way of thinking, that you can try and influence and force to be bought into your political ideology, is young men, because they will always push back against it. and they've got the benefit of the anonymity of the internet to do it, and they've got generally quite a bit of spare time on their hands to go at it. That's why you get such a massive pushback when things like this erupt. It's the nature of gamers to just say, no, fuck you. Like, I'm here to be entertained. I don't want this, and you can't make me want it. I think maybe moviegoing audiences are a bit more laid back, and like you say, they are a much broader demographic of all different ages and ethnicities, all that sort of thing. They are much broader, and perhaps they are more accepting of some of this stuff because they don't engage in it as often. You know, you might go and see a new movie once a month, even less than that. So you're not as exposed to it as often. But if you play video games every other day, yeah, you see it a lot more. And so you're much more engaged with it, and you're much more aware when it's not doing what you want it to do as a consumer.
Well, the industry is fundamentally flawed anyway, because you're paying $70, $100 for a game, which releases and it's broken.
Yeah.
Like day one patch, equivalent size of the game. Oh, it gets taken down. There's so many things. They keep releasing fundamentally like an actually broken product. And to top it all off, then you start putting this crap in it as well. Like, come on. Like, how many times are people going to keep accepting this kind of stuff? You know, again, it's not like a movie. At least the movie is $15 as an investment, or, you know, 10 quid or whatever it is. You're paying a lot
fundamentally
of money
broken
for a game.
And you see the movie for what, 2 hours, and then you go home and do something else. But the game, you're probably expected to sink 15, 20, 50 hours into it. Who knows? Like, depending on what it is, it could be 100 hours or more.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, well, it's going to tell that much more because you're spending that much more time in it.
That was the interesting thing about Helldivers. It died under its own popularity, and so there were a load of people that when they got it, it was broken for them. They couldn't play it, but it was only broken because the game was so good. And you didn't really it seemed to have a different attitude than a lot of other things, especially first-day server issues, MMOs and stuff, where people are just mad because they're in a queue. People seem to give this the benefit of the doubt more because they were very open with it. They communicated with the audience. They kept expanding the cap, and we just kept seeing new numbers. And I think their transparency and proving that, no, we're doing our best, this is the best we can do, we'll get you in as soon as we can, was a lot better than the other attitude where they either just cut off all contact, and you're just like, are you even doing anything? We can't even see anything. Or where you think there's some other reason, like we don't want to. MMOs are really proud. We don't want to oversubscribe servers originally, and so we're just going to have you queue because we don't want to spend the extra money. How you deal with these problems matters a lot. So whether you get the benefit.
Well, there's a nice symmetry at least, which is let's see if I can do it. Steam kills Sweet Baby Inc., which kills Suicide Squad, kills the Justice League. So it's a nice little symmetry.
Yeah, everyone's killing each other. I was going to move on to one thing that made me laugh, actually. This was a great little quote from Zack Snyder when he was getting interviewed recently. And I just think it makes for great... There's two things. One is his interview with Joe Rogan. The other one is... This was in Uproxx first, but it says Zack Snyder is claiming that Rebel Moon Part 1 received more views than Barbie in theaters. So wait until you hear his reasoning, because it is mind-boggling. Yep. So you think about Netflix, for instance, where you push a button. Rebel Moon, right? Say right now it's almost 90 million views, right? 80 or 90 million accounts turned it on, give or take. They assume 2 views per screening, right? That's kind of the math. So you think if that movie was in theaters as a distribution model, that's like 160 million people supposedly watching based on that math. 160 million people at $10 a ticket would be, I don't know, 160 million times 10. That's 1.6 billion.
This is called cope.
Yes. So more people probably saw Rebel Moon than saw Barbie in the theater, right? Sure, Zach.
No.
Sure is right.
No.
I mean, how many people actually finished it? How many people watched the first 10 minutes and then turned it off? And then how many people would have bothered to go to a movie theater and pay like $20 a ticket to actually watch this shit? It's one thing to be sat on your couch. Bless him.
That explains.
That was
terrible, man.
That was legit one of the most boring movies I've seen in a long time.
Boring is a nice thing to say about Rebel Moon.
Yes, I mean, it was ugly. The characters were fucking blocks of
Non-existent, they're terrible.
Yes. It looked like it was directed by a man who was manically depressive and hated cinema.
It wasn't even.
But yeah, 160 million people saw it. Sure, Zach.
It does give you a bit of an insight into how these streaming services view their things, though. Like, when something gets renewed, you're like, that seems weird. Why have you done that? They probably run those kind of mass equations and just convince themselves it was profitable. Oh, yeah, we had all these people doing it. Like, to even assume, or just on the basic thing, 2 people viewed it per account? Where did they even get that from? That's
his assumption, yeah. If you got a household, you're going to sit down with your girlfriend or whatever and watch Rebel Moon, and then she dumps you.
It's from Zack Snyder, bro. It's like
you think this is good? We're not meant to be Yeah, man, and that was that was his math on this one. So, I mean, you can't argue with it. It seems pretty solid to me. I loved his comments as well because he shared some of his thoughts on Batman, and this was just glorious. I'll just play it.
He's murdering his goodwill. Like, before you play this clip, can we just all recognize Zack Snyder's reputation is fucking sinking every single day. It's spiraling.
He, you know what he probably should have done, right? After he was booted off Justice League, never make another film. Don't do anything else in Hollywood. Just retire, and then people would always have had the like heroic death narrative that. He was this visionary filmmaker, and the only reason his films were shit was because the studio interfered too much, and he just wasn't allowed to fulfill his artistic vision. Chris Stuckman just creamed somewhere right now when I said that. And
making things as hard.
He could have just left the movie business, and people would have believed that about him. They still would have had his reputation more or less intact. But then he just kept making movies.
We have got an extended Rebel Moon, a sequel to Rebel Moon, and an extended sequel to Rebel Moon on the way.
Yes.
He's going to be fucked by the time all that's out. People are going to be like, you're a joke. I don't want to see your films anymore.
The extended Rebel Moon cut is just going to be entirely in slow motion.
Slow motion, yeah.
It's just the first film at 50% speed.
He's doing the Shyamalan arc. He's just doing the same thing. But at least Chamberlain wasn't. Like, I don't know. He's a goober. Like, he's funny.
He said in the 6-hour cut that violence will be a character. Like, gore will be a character. It's like, well, it was nice to get one at least out of all of them. Nice to get a characterization somewhere.
Probably a better character arc.
M. Night Snyder.
Let's see what he's got to say about Batman when he was on Joe Rogan.
Let's do it.
People are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your...
Okay, how is... I have so many things.
So many questions.
I've seen your Batman movies. What are you talking about? You put in a position where he has to kill. Your Batman was a fucking psycho. He was killing everybody. What are you talking about? Like, challenging the character. We're talking about Dark Knight here, where he was dealing with like a very specific scenario where he does kill Harvey Dent, right? But like, he doesn't save a kid. There's a gunshot. He tackled him. He didn't necessarily intend for it. There's a lot of ways you can portray a kill. But, like, are we all just getting gaslit into thinking his movie was a challenging situation for Batman where he was forced to take a life? It's like, no. I'm assuming you guys remember that movie. It's filled with, like, rampant Batman killing people, and it's kind of funny. Like,
he's got quite a body count in that one.
He flattens someone by, like, driving on them with his Batmobile. Like,
he somehow threw a crate across a room and splattered a guy's skull against the wall, which I don't entirely understand how he managed that, but...
I really like that action scene, but as most people admit, it's like, yeah, but he's killing the fuck out of those people in that scene, so it's kind of awkward. It's like when Wonder Woman splattered someone's brains in Snyder Cut. People were like, that feels awkward. But like, it was
Wonder Woman like dripping with gore.
Oh yeah, I mean, he branded people. He was branding people. Like, What is this Snyder talking about?
I mean, you know, how do you square that then? So, like, say he is in this situation where he has to rescue Martha, and it's a room full of goons with guns who are all trying to kill him. You know, can you just resolve that then by him doing non-lethal takedowns of everyone?
Everyone loves the Dark Knight. He kills Harvey Dent in the Dark Knight. I don't know if people recognize that. He kills him. He tackles him to stop him from killing the kid. Harvey Dent falls to his death. He killed him.
Yeah. Like you say, he didn't necessarily mean to kill him. It was just
no, of course not. That's the meaning of the word kill and the meaning of the word murder are very, very different, right? Like Batman's capacity to kill people, it's a potential. Now, I understand the Batman fan base, and I don't even fucking blame them for this. They don't want to see him kill people. I get it. I totally get it. Same with Spider-Man. But I think they're willing to accept it when you put it in a situation like The Dark Knight does. It's the climax of a storyline that's all about a hero that's fallen, like it's thematically relevant. He does what he can, you know, to evade it. You could have done that scene. So he does a batarang that reflects off a couple of things and hits Harvey in the back of the head, and he drops the gun and falls over. And it's like, sure. But it looks to me that like it was accepted well by the fan base. It's considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Batman film of all time. So like what Snyder's saying has some degrees of it that's interesting, but I can't fucking believe he's saying this compared to his work with Batman. Like I said, I've seen those films.
I mean, I guess there's a high element of copium going on with this, just like with his Rebel Moon breakdown of the box office. It's like, I need to justify the stuff that I've done somehow.
It seems like a desire to be edgy as well. Like, it is literally, you've given me a rule. I'm not going to obey rules.
Yeah, that's like contrarian
to
sake of it.
Push boundaries. It's weird, though, to think when he's like, well, he's forced to. It's like, but his character is that he doesn't want to cross the line, because if he crosses the line, he wouldn't be able to stop, is how... I haven't read the comics, but how I've always thought it was. It was like he knew where that road would lead to, and so he never wanted to. And so
he doesn't want to be like the people that he's trying to stop in Gotham, right? He doesn't want to become...
Well, I think for having seen his parents murdered in front of his eyes, he never wants to inflict that on anyone else.
Well, there's a lot to it, I think, and there's plenty to infer as well, because Batman's a fucking interesting character. But to just be like, someone said he doesn't kill, so I want to make him kill, sounds childish, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like from that perspective, if he did, you know, if somebody died during the course of the thing, if he tried his best to not do it, then you could probably write it off on his conscience. Is like, well, you know, I did everything I could. You can't save everybody, kind of thing. But it's a very... I think he just likes to come across as, aren't I dark and edgy? I'm an auteur. Everyone respects the kind of thing. That's why all this stuff is slow motion and blurry and you can't see anything. He just thinks that if you do something different to everybody else, that somehow makes you better than them, because you were original. And it's like, no, there has to be a reason why you do this stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it would have been awesome if June 2 had come out and then they released Rebel Moon like a week after that, so you had the beautiful exquisite rendering of what a sci-fi world could be, and then you had this trash ridiculous derivative thing. People would have loved it. It would have been hilarious.
It's just great. I would have loved to have seen him do a Star Wars movie, because that's how this all got... That's where it was all birthed from, an aborted Star Wars project that he was going to be helming. And it was so bad that even Disney said, "No, fuck this. We're not working with you." Like, okay, fine. I'll just take my toys and play with them elsewhere then.
And what
got my own lightsabers.
They were. Like, yeah, it's so funny though. If he had made his Star Wars movie, what the fuck difference would it have made to the Star Wars canon right now at all?
Well, there's that.
Another shit movie.
I want him to see, like, I want to see a hybrid of Star Wars and like Army of the Dead. I just want Zack to do that. Go for it, Zack. Show us what you can
get
do.
That in Ahsoka with those zombies.
Yeah.
But doesn't it seem to be like a really horrible way to make a movie when he released, I can't remember how long the first film was, but it was 3 hours, and he shot an entire extra movie of useless crap that was cut out of the first one, just that you can add in afterwards. It's like, no wonder the budgets for these things are out of control. If that's how much you're cutting out, you can make it far more efficient by knowing exactly what you want in the first place, rather than just shooting everything and then deciding in the cutting room what you want to keep. Seems insane.
I mean,
his general, though.
His principal photography must go on for about 2 years for his average film. Like, the actors probably visibly age just because they've been there for so long.
Well, that's Hollywood in general. I mean, you only got to listen to bloody James Cameron talk about Avatar 2 and the amount of, I mean, they had like a 6-hour cut or something like that, and they had to chop it all the way down. Like, if you're making a 6-hour movie, which you then have to chop down, you that's bad writing. You've written it bad, right? You that's bad. You've done bad stuff. Like you need to do better.
I can't think of a more vacuous movie to try and expand up to 6 hours or whatever,
or a whole universe, or a crossover universe with Army of the Dead. Like, why?
Yeah. Well, Avatar, like, it's the most basic bitch, simplistic storyline imaginable. Literally, the only reason anyone remembers that film is because it looked pretty and it had like blue Smurf people in it. That's it. Why would you ever want to see an extended cut of that? It's just going to be more landscape shots, just more overwhelming CGI nonsense. That's all you're going to get. Why make it? Like, why does everyone keep paying to see these movies? I don't understand.
I've never understood that. It's beyond me. I thought when the second one was coming out, I thought this will be it. Not many people will go and watch it. You know, they would have realised that. And no, they did. Although significantly less than the first one, actually. If you look at the
I'm amazed that it was even as much as it was. I honestly thought the first one was just a flash in the pan, and the idea of doing something new, like 15 years later, no one's going to care. No one will even remember what happened in the first movie. But somehow they came back. I don't know if it's just the James Cameron mystique. Who knows?
No one talked about it. Like,
you
have discussions about movies. No one brings it up, ever. It's like, it kind of happened. It was really successful and then vanished almost immediately. It was bizarre.
That's what I mean. It's so vacuous. I don't understand how a movie that was so enormous could have so little footprint to the point where nobody probably even remembers what happened in it. I thought someone was going to speak there.
I was wondering who you were apologizing to.
Well, there's someone like inhaled like they were about to start speaking, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you." Never mind. On a lighter note, though, I did see this floating around on Twitter today as well, and I don't know why. Like, because it's old. It happened last year, but it did make me chuckle. Hold on, let's see if I can bring it up. Right. This is from Anita Sarkeesian. It piqued my interest from when we were talking about her earlier. This was amazing. So she's saying here, I didn't get married, but I did have a wedding-themed birthday in Stockholm this summer. It was goofy and silly and fun. We had a bachelor party, a rehearsal dinner, a ceremony, and reception all in one. People dressed up in the best costumes. Yeah, the ultimate coat. This is a woman turning 40, you know, moving out of the prime years of her life into middle age, having a wedding-themed birthday party. That is tragic, man.
Huffing all the coke. This. Oh my God. You spent your years complaining about gamers. You could have been having a nice life. Yeah, now clearly raging cope. These people. What's wrong with these people?
I had a wedding birthday.
So angry.
What?
Misery on other people.
Then I went home to my cats and my box of wine.
Imagine how
cry.
Dismal and depressing that'd be. Like she could have a birthday baby shower. Imagine how dismal and depressing that would be.
It's funny, and it's funny to think about all the people from that generation because they're so obscure now that like they're basically no longer part of the discourse. But you know, people like Zoe Quinn and stuff who, what did they con people out of like $100,000 on Kickstarter to do like a video game? Never made it. Nothing ever came of it.
Oh, that's
no refunds or anything. That's just amazing. Like, how did you get away with this stuff? How many consulting gigs did you all get collectively to screw up other people's video games? It was just like a prototype version of Sweet Baby Inc. really back in the day.
She went touring through Europe, posting all these great places she's at, and all the people in the comments beneath the post were saying, "What's going on with the Kickstarter that we chip money into?" Pretty dodgy stuff.
Because someone did a video about it once, like almost like a recap of the whole saga, and there was one comment that just really stuck out for me on the Kickstarter where someone just said, I know we're not going to see this game ever, but can you just please give us an update so we have closure?" It was like the most sad, plaintive, like, just give us something so we can leave.
ultimate.
Well, we all know you've taken all that sweet Rogue Elements money and you've just binged it at casinos in Las Vegas. So there's nothing left.
It's probably what people expected, though, to be honest.
I'm just going to vanish from the internet in like a month or two. You'll never see me again.
Has anyone played? There's the Justice League one. There's Starfield. Has anyone played Forspoken? What actually is that?
No, I got put off by the dialogue from it. It just looked awful. But it's like a kind of fantasy role playing game. Yeah, I can only tell you of like the cutscenes and stuff that I've seen, but not
full
much
of
else.
like Zoomer speak. It was weird.
It's got an awful name, anyway.
Forspoken.
It's a
What
weird
is
one.
that? Just rolls off the tongue, makes you want to buy it. No thanks. I'm good.
No, I not played it. The other thing I was going to cover here that's has come out. Apparently, we've been talking a lot about Disney over the years, and slating their movies, and especially the financial failures that they've had over the past couple of years. A lot of box office flops. But for all these movies that have come out, they've actually cancelled quite a few, and they've done it quietly behind the scenes, according to Bob Iger. He was talking about this just recently. Disney chief Bob Iger has been speaking this afternoon at a conference hosted by Morgan Stanley in San Francisco, where he opened up on his efforts to improve the film business at the company after a fiscally mixed year. That's one way of putting it. Part of it is involved quietly cancelling projects that Disney felt were not going to be worth the effort in the long run and attempting to place more solid bets. Where's this quote here? Yeah, you have to kill things that you no longer believe in, and that's not easy in this business because either you've gotten started, you have some sunk costs, or it's a relationship with your employees or with the creative community. It's not an easy thing, but you've got to make those tough calls. We've actually made them already. We've not made that public, but we've killed a few projects already that we just didn't feel were strong enough. And it did make me wonder, is one of those projects Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? By any chance? Actually, no, I want to see that movie. I think that's going to be glorious when it comes out. I hope they don't kill it. But
you think how bad were the films that they actually cancelled? I mean, my God, the stuff that they released is abysmal. So, I mean, the standards of release are real low. So what were they cancelling? I mean,
this means they thought Echo was good. They're like, we've got to show them that. That'll be amazing.
That'll generate massive profits for us.
I like the optics of coming down from his ivory tower to speak relatably to everyday people at a Morgan Stanley conference. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm
surrounded by mere millionaires here, that's all.
And there's the one project called Elio, which is like I think it's a Pixar one, about a boy who has an eye patch over one eye because it's about sensitivity and bringing awareness and tolerance to this. And what they did is discreetly, they were going to have that before the big June showdown with those other activist investors who want to get on the board. And so they just chucked it post, so it's going to be after that now. So they just discreetly did that so they didn't have some horrible turkey just before they have to face the investors.
That's fair. One of the movies they've definitely cancelled is Magazine Dreams that was starring Jonathan Majors for obvious reasons. So as far as I know, that's never going to see the light of day now, which must be great for all the people who worked on it. But he talked as well about Marvel, which is probably very appropriate considering the problems that they've had. So he made the argument that viewers are not suffering from superhero fatigue or franchise fatigue in general. After all, Marvel had an unprecedented run of success between Iron Man and Spider-Man No Way Home. The only problem is everything's fallen apart since then. He said that the audience would respond to good films instead. He said that by reducing the amount of projects that they greenlit, they can focus on quality rather than quantity. Quote, a lot of people think it's audience fatigue. It's not. They want great films, and if you build it great, then they will come, and there are countless examples of that. Some are ours and some are others. So Oppenheimer is a perfect example of that. Fair enough. Just a fantastic film. Focus is important. We reduced the output of Marvel, both number of films and the number of TV shows, and that really becomes critical, but I feel good about the team. I feel good about the IP that we're making. It's nice that you do, Bob. I talked about a lot of the projects. We look years ahead, really, and it's iterative. So I love that he compares his Marvel movies to Oppenheimer. That's just beautiful, putting them in the same sort of category.
And what's one of the next things they've got coming out? The Acolyte. It's like, is this what you can't give all of these speeches and then lead it up with something like the Acolyte, which we all know where it's going because there's no way you've updated that or changed it or fixed it. It always gets me, this idea that people think, well, you know, we made a lot of things, so if we just make less of them, they'll be better. It's like there is fundamental changes you have to make, and I don't think you even know what they are. It's just like, no, because he hasn't mentioned about it. He hasn't said the culture, or we've got to actually make be more like the audience, or maybe there's something wrong in Hollywood that the way you're actually our procedures and stuff or our hiring practices are wrong. None of that. We just make less. Somehow that improves things. It just seems like he's reaching to me.
I don't know if he's leaning on the magical studio oversight thing. Like, if there's fewer projects, then we've got a better handle on what they're making, so we can stand over the shoulders of these incompetent directors that we've hired. Because that was pretty much his argument for why the Marvels flopped. You know,
but then there was another article where he did the other way around, and he said we were going to give the showrunners more things because they're artists and we can't get in their way. So he's actually said both sides of that argument recently.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just wary about pissing people off of that.
The thing about producing less, they've been saying this for years, and they haven't done it. And everything they produce is garbage. This was an argument that they made a couple of years back. It's why they stopped making the Star Wars stuff. But then they didn't. They just stopped making Star Wars movies. And they gave us a shit ton of Star Wars shows. And they're not great. So it's like, well, pick your poison. What is it? Like, you just got to stop making everything altogether to finally make good stuff? What do you want about? It doesn't make any sense.
I think all the TV shows... Yeah, that was just the insatiable demands of Disney Plus. It's like we have to keep feeding content into the streaming service to try and make it work, and ultimately it didn't, because they've lost shit tons of money on that and damaged all their brands in the process. So, good job, I suppose.
He didn't mention or address anything to do with ideology or to do with the directions with the writers. He made some strange comment about now. I watched these things 3 or 4 times to see what's going on and to make comments. Where were you prior to that, when they were churning out all this crap? And if you're making a new direction, putting out sequels and existing IPs and churning them out, that's not a new direction. That's just like that's like catching your breath and being back in your heels while you try to figure out what to do. What does iterative mean?
I guess what he's going for is like, well, we're shit now and we're still producing shit stuff, but we'll gradually make it less shit as we go because we'll iteratively improve upon what we did before. Which doesn't really hold water anyway, because it's like, well, you clearly were capable of making good stuff, or at least stuff that the audience appreciated. So what's your excuse for why it's crap now? It's not like you're starting at the beginning here. You know, you were good, you've lost it. What has changed? What are you doing differently that's ruined everything? I can tell you, Bob, but you'll never admit to it yourself.
And when you've got Dakota Johnson coming out, you've got Dakota Johnson coming out and saying there's too many people writing this stuff, you can't make it by an algorithm, and yeah, it's a Sony Marvel movie, but people have made those same comments about Marvel as a whole, that the director doesn't even direct half the movie because we've got other people in already, the fight scenes are already done for them. It should be very easy for them to analyze this stuff, and yet...
Yeah.
It is like, if you're watching it 4 times, yeah, but who are you watching it with? Are you watching it with the same yes men that supported you all the time? Because with regards to your board, you seem to be really fighting hard to have anyone who's got an alternative opinion to you. Everyone's got to support you at all times. So if all you surround yourself is yes men, whatever idea he comes up with, they'll look at, we'll have to change that. You bang on there, Bob. And he'll never know until he's surrounding himself with honest people.
Midnight Edge did a really good breakdown of the issues with the Disney board, and they made a good point that Disney doesn't have a board of investors in the normal sense, because it's staffed almost exclusively by people with personal connections to Bob. Yeah, it's all like people from outside industries that he's gradually brought in, who are just loyal to him, and a lot of the time they don't even have experience within the movie industry. They are just there because they're loyalists. And so,
personal stake in Disney as well. That's the other important thing. So, they actually don't have a vested interest in the company's success on a financial level.
No.
And they're all very recent. Like from 2016 is nearly the entire board, if not all the entire board, which is probably when a lot of people will go, it's been going downhill since then. So these people have never been part of the golden age.
And the whole purpose of the board is to represent the interests of the shareholders and hold the CEO to account. They're like a system of checks and balances that he has to answer to them. That's the point. He has to demonstrate his value. He has to demonstrate the results of the decisions that he's made and justify his continual occupation of the role. And if he can't do that, then he gets removed and replaced by someone more competent. But when you don't have that, when you don't have that system of checks and balances, he's just allowed to do whatever he wants. And
to be fair, I personally would have no scruples if someone comes up to me and says, I'm going to give you $250,000 a year. I just need you to dress up in a suit 6 times a year and sit around a gigantic glass table in an atrium somewhere. I have no problems with doing that if someone wants to give me that. I just want to put that.
For sure, yeah. But like when you get to the level of bankrupting the company, then you have to start asking yourself questions like, should I keep doing this? Because eventually I'm going to be held to account by this. If nothing else, like the shareholders could theoretically sue the board for violating their fiduciary responsibilities, because that is their ultimate role. It's their ultimate purpose for being there, is to represent the interests of the company and make good decisions that benefit them. If they go counter to that, you could sue them because they're not doing their jobs anymore. I guess that's why Nelson Peltz is working so hard to try and get in. Because if he does, like he would absolutely run wild on that place. But I think Iger will take whatever steps necessary to block him and keep him out. Because it would be the end of his tenure, I'm pretty sure, if Peltz does get a seat.
Well, it's like a lot of things. I know he's earned less this year than previous years, but it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the tens of millions. It was like at least $30 million a year. Once you're earning that kind of money, there's a huge incentive just to kill time and just try and survive in the role as long as you can. You try and change it. You see if you can improve it. But things like, well, we're making less stuff, so we're going to lose less than before, and we'll iteratively improve over time for many years. We'll try and make it better. And every one of those years, you're earning tens of millions of dollars. There comes a point.
We'll try and do the successor plan. We'll try and get a new CEO. Mm-hmm. Trust me, bro.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, we're trying, and we only lost $500 million this year as opposed to $700 million from last year. So we're doing better. Yeah, it's iterative. It's iterative.
Think about the Disney Plus. Disney Plus always loses money, so they're doing a tax write-down. So they're doing a calculated loss year on year for the investment. So it's an adjustment loss. It's not actually that it's gone into profit ever. It will never go profit ever. Because how they're working their books is a tax write-down based on a yearly sort of valuation, basically. It's crazy.
I think it's $11 billion in the whole, Disney Plus.
Disney has there's an interesting issue in Hollywood and how it works being based in California. So they can get tax subsidies or some sort of write-offs, up to 12%, I think it is, from the Californian government because they're working with entities or corporations in California, with a proviso being that those who are working in front of the camera and behind have to reflect the state demographics of California in order to reach the threshold for that subsidy. So you've got this weird kind of thing where these corporations, which should be creating American entertainment, are creating entertainment which has to cater to the demographics of California, which is kind of a phony situation in order to get those subsidies.
Wow. Yeah. Disney keeps filming in the UK because they can get over 25% of their production budget back.
The Mandalorian and Grogu got in the news because it had, I think it was like the second or third highest tax credit back from California. So they are being in there and they are obeying all those rules that it's got to be representative of California, despite the fact it's supposed to be in space in a different galaxy. So, that'll be fun.
It's going to save Star Wars, eh?
It sure is.
I can't wait for the Acolyte. They are going to have to release the trailers for that. I also can't wait, actually, for Rings of Power Season 2. That is meant to be coming out this year, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy? I've been watching Bad Batch. I assume none of you have.
Nope.
No,
you know what Bad Batch is about? Like, I thought it was just about random clones just doing adventures. I had no idea that Bad Batch's storyline is supposed to justify like how Palpatine has clones and why Snoke exists. That's
Really?
what it's about. Yeah, the Bad Batch of clones are getting like sampled in and out with Palpatine's blood to see which one can or I think it's Palpatine's blood. It's basically to find out which of them can support Force like at the highest levels, and they've discovered that the main. Okay, I don't know how to phrase this question. There is one clone that is the key to all of this.
Of course. Is that a woman?
I was just about to say, do you think it's a boy or a girl? Bear in mind, all of the clones are boys. So, do you think it's a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
A girl, obviously.
It's a girl.
I didn't even know this show existed.
She's got blood that can make it so you can build like a Force clone that's going to be as powerful as Snoke, I guess. And that's what the Bad Batch is apparently going to justify. It's the connection between, I guess, the end of the prequels and the Clone Wars all the way up to the sequels. It's fucking crazy. I had no idea. I thought I was just going to watch a show about a bunch of random clones, shooting shit.
It's so obscure, though. It feels like the kind of show that's got about 20 people watching it. No one talks about it. No one's even remotely interested in it. But it seems to be covering these major plot points that are like justifying the entire setup for a movie. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you could do in a little animated show or whatever.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I would never be watching this, and I never would have found out what it was about. But I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll check it out for a different podcast I'm on. And I was like, sure. And fucking with every episode that passes, I was like, this is what this is about. It's like Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid's Palpatine is in it. He's just chilling and he's doing plot stuff, and it's just like fucking hell. They got him for it.
I mean, is it any good or like?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a redundant question at this point, obviously, but
obviously fails at like basic plot writing. The characters are incredibly thin. It's like that's the stupid one, that's the smart one, that's the hunting one, all good with senses. That's the little girl who's hopeful about everything, and they do basic plotline like, oh, we gotta find a ship. How do we find the ship? We need to bribe a person. How do we bribe a person? We need money. How do we get money? We gamble. Oh, the gambling almost went wrong. We gotta run. Oh no, guns firing. Oh, we got to the ship. Oh, we did it. Just like plot lines like that. Yeah. Which, by the way, in a good show is fine. I don't mind stuff like that. Is it any good? No. Best review ever.
Sure.
Well, I mean, obviously,
it's a new category now. We've gone from Star Wars being something of feverish anticipation and delight and even generationally defining to something you have on in the background while you're scrolling through your phone to a new category of, oh, wait, there was a Star Wars thing that came out?
Yeah.
Oh, we've gone now.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, right? Some people will be like, what the fuck is a Bad Batch? And how are there 3 seasons? It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I imagined it was like a Dirty Dozen type thing where you got a bunch of clone troopers or something like that. Yeah. That's all I got from it.
There's a great effort in the animation. It's not a cheaply animated show. It's just like, it's a shame they didn't make it about something interesting and write it well. But I mean, maybe I'm expecting a little too much in that regard.
Some people in chat were asking me as well, what do we think about Rooster Teeth getting shut down? Because it says, we just found out the other night. It's been shut down by Warner Brothers after more than 2 decades it's been running. It has now bit the dust. Sorry.
Just a quick clarification. It's like the equivalent of, executing Anakin when he's on he's been burnt and all his limbs are chopped off.
Yeah. There wasn't much left of it. It's just one of those companies that I guess you could define it. It's gone a bit the way of Kotaku and all of these other companies. I'm pretty sure it went woke and it went broke after it got bought over, and they were just a shell, and it's been put out of its misery now. And it's a shame because the guy who created it, I was on with him just last night on Side Scrollers, and I think he's interested in trying to get the rights back to it so that he could at least get the back catalogue of content that they'd produced for it before it was sold off. Because I think, to have that year's worth of stuff that they produced in their early years, like a lot of it was good quality before it was bought over and just the soul sucked out of it. So I hope he succeeds, but yeah, I guess it's a shame. Like another piece of internet culture, pop culture, just bleh. All the life just sucked out of it, and then the husk was just ground into dust and then killed. It just feels like that's kind of happening to everything at this point.
A little bit. It is crazy how many old guard YouTube, not even channels, but bigger collectives have just gone the way of the fucking dodo, I guess. Everything moves forward. YouTube's nearly 20 years old, right?
What?
Well, 2006, I think it started.
Yeah,
Or 2005. Yeah, so it's almost there, yeah.
Yeah. Loads of people left in January. There's loads of videos, weren't there?
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of clickbait as well. I'm leaving. Oh, why I'm done. Blah blah
A
blah.
wave of retirement. It's like, all right.
It's a weird thing to do, really, because it's like, well, it is the kind of that you could just do one video a year if you really wanted to. But to
When you can
announce,
come back
no,
when
this
it's
is me forever, and I'm going, and there's well, I'll probably be doing something on this different channel that I've also got over here. Was one of them. It was strange, and then other people wrote it as like, why are all these people quitting YouTube? And it's like it was a little mini industry around it for a while.
Yeah. A bunch of videos speculated on like YouTube's health or AdSense and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. I think part of it is the other people are inspired by retirement when they see it. Like, man, I've been doing this for ages. I need to get a life. Which they might feel that way, but
I guess everyone dreams of leaving when they're on top as well, and not having it just like peter out until you're just faded into obscurity and still like laboring away. But it's weird now because I forget, like, just even how long I've been doing it for. Like, there was one dude I met when I was at MegaCon in Orlando, and he was, I don't know, he's probably like 18, 19. And he said to me, I grew up watching your stuff. And I was like, motherfucker! Like, how long have I been doing this?
Still old.
we put people through the full drinker. Like, they've been listening for that long.
I mean, it like if he started when my channel took off, what was that, 2019? So that's 5 years. That could be most of his high school time. So I guess he kind of would have grown up with it.
2019, 5 years ago. That's weird.
I know.
I remember seeing your first Game of Thrones ones, and you hadn't quite got the persona, so you're actually quite tentative in saying, "Well, I wasn't quite happy with the way that they brought this thing to resolution." It's quite funny to watch now.
I was polite back in the day. I don't know. I just got burned out with stuff. It just transitioned over to, fuck this. I hate it all.
Yeah.
But it still feels like a relatively recent thing. And then I realize at times like that, it's not actually. Been doing this for a while now. On the plus side, I still enjoy doing it. So I guess that's something.
Right, guys, not retiring yet.
Not quite yet. No, I think we've got a few years left in us yet.
A few months at least.
Yeah. At least we've been acolyte. That might do everyone in.
Well, we've been doing open bar now for 86 years. Can you believe it? So
really filling the age at this point,
We need another 14 years at least to get to the 100. So we'll try for that. But should we do a few super chats? How does that sound?
Go on.
All right. So Metal Face Rosie says, "What would you ask David Lynch if you could interview him?" I would ask, "What the fuck was Mulholland Drive meant to be?"
He wouldn't answer you. He'd be like, "That's for you to figure out."
He doesn't even know. That's the thing. That's fucking asshole. So pissed off with that movie. Like, you can't make a film where you don't even know what the fuck it's trying to be or what it's meant to be about. And it's like, that's for people to find their own meaning in it. No, you're the storyteller. You're supposed to at least know what your story is. Fuck's sake.
I'd probably ask him, like, what's the most important thing about storytelling, just to hear what his answer would be. I'm not sure what it would be.
That's for you to find out, MauLer.
Yeah. I certainly didn't grasp it from watching this stuff. I can make a couple guesses, but,
He also says, EFAP on Maggie Mae Fish when she makes Lindsay Ellis look reasonable by comparison.
Lindsay Ellis can be reasonable. Her Hobbit video is pretty good, from what I remember anyway. As for Maggie Mae Fish, I think Adam and Stitch wanted to cover her with us at some point, so maybe in the future, I'm not sure.
Is Lindsay Ellis still active? Is she still making things?
On her Patreon, I want to say, I think, or Nebula. I think she uploads on Nebula only.
Didn't she end up pissing off her own fan base and then just kind of went off in the huff and said, I'm not doing it anymore?
She came under the same fire that a lot of sort of leftist YouTubers do, where they've built an audience that is designed to destroy anybody once they've made like a critical error, even from interpretation. And then she made that tweet, right, about Raya the Last Dragon, saying that it was copying Avatar the Last Airbender, I think, and she got in huge trouble because of, like, it's, I guess, culturally insensitive. I'm not sure. It's hard to follow, right? But, like, you have that, you had a bunch of, she made a video about this, a whole bunch of scenarios all in a row, and then she had one big one, and she basically said, I'm fucking out. I can't deal with this anymore. Like, saying something casual in terms of criticism about a thing gets my whole audience to try and kill me. So I'm just done.
Yeah.
So she cancelled herself.
Yes, that's how everybody
weird
has looked at it. It's like to truly be cancelled is to cancel yourself. Like that is the ultimate one. Other than, of course, when God cancels you.
I mean, true.
That's a big one. Yeah.
I mean, I guess, yeah, truly, when you're like a hardcore leftist YouTuber, then you live by the sword, and eventually you will die by the sword. The sword being your own fucking fan base. Yeah, sure.
Well, not.
Have you guys ever made? You guys ever made a video where you lost subscribers?
Probably. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think. I think when I made one about Gina Carano getting fired, I lost a few.
Me
for
too.
that. Like temporarily,
dozens
it
of
was. Yeah. And
I don't know if
just,
we lose subs every time we upload, right? It's just usually counterbalanced by gains, I suppose.
it's just when YouTube is just going through a bit of a phase with your channel, right? And you upload a video and you instantly, like 200 subscribers or whatever, just vanish. And there's no real rhyme or reason for it. It's like, that feels like YouTube was doing some automated thing behind the scenes, but I don't really understand what or why. And there's always a sort of pause where you think, is that number going to keep going down or will it start to climb back up again? And, usually it starts climbing back up. So it's like, oh, okay, fine. I just would be curious to know what the algorithm did there that caused that to happen. It's just odd.
I do think when you with your comment about you eventually get cancelled by your own audience, I always thought that had something to do with, there was the whole drama around how tiring streaming is compared to other work. And one thing Asmund Gold said was every single word, every single facial expression is micromanaged, like focused on by your audience at all times, looking for something to be offended by. I'm like, that's not how I feel. That seems to be an audience that some people cultivate, and they're petrified.
Yeah, that's dependent on the audience you've garnered. Yeah, for sure. I don't feel that way when I'm fucking streaming Arkham City, that I like every single word I say needs to be fully filtered, otherwise I could be destroyed at any moment.
Well, MauLer, we can't see your face, so we don't know
every
what
word
your expressions are. You might be sitting there all the time just like,
surely what we're saying is much more important than the smile we have.
Paper insane.
Well, just to bounce off of that, I think once you build an audience that's trained to spot dog whistles that don't exist, it's like, of course it's going to reflect on you when you make the mistake of having an opinion at some point. So
I'm going the other way of just trying to see how vulgar and jarring and off and janky I can get with my scripts to find out where the limit is. So I'm going the opposite direction.
Particularly when it's guys like Hassan. You're a fucking multimillionaire. You got an enormous audience. Like if streaming's that stressful for you, or it's just such a drag, then just don't do it for a while. Take a day off or whatever. Like you need to do it financially.
What do you suppose he does? Die? Like,
or just take a permanent fucking break from the internet and give everyone a break.
But it's weird because I did a Gina Carano video where I did a sort of balance view that I knew was going to be a little bit out of sync with my audience, and even as a joke in the first 30 seconds, I had like a graph going down with like my subscriber count, like preempting how people react. But they took it literally, and I lost like 60 or 70 subs of that video. So live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you always take a risk, I suppose, if it's like a contentious topic. Because, you're going to have to give an opinion on it one way or another, and sometimes people get pissed off with it, and you just have to learn to live with that. But yeah, if that view count, if that sub count just keeps going down,
something might wrong.
Wrong. Yeah, that would be bad times. Metal Face Rosie says you could probably get Brianna Wu on Open Bar or EFAP. Who's
Why? Like, if she has a particular interest in talking about the latest fucking release of whatever movie, I guess if Drinker wants to, I don't know. I haven't associated Beyond with like EFAP potential. I guess
she's like one of the she's like Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian, isn't she?
She's spoken
like one of that generation.
She's spoken semi-regularly with like Short Fat Otaku and Sam and that fucking Sitch and Adam. So I assume that they've had like pretty good conversations, and that's why it's suggested. But again, I think she's much more politics focused than media. So I'm not sure if she'd be interested in coming on here, but maybe.
Yeah. Well, look forward to the delights of that, I suppose. Barry McCockiner says, explain what's in my profile pic in great detail. I don't think I can without getting demonetized. Metal Face Rosie says, favorite Robert Rodriguez film for the panel.
Planet Terror, maybe.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Or
pretty good fun.
Was what am I blanking on the name? The Selma Hayek one where she's super hot. Was he the director of that? Or was
Dusk Till Dawn.
Was he the director? I can't remember.
That was Quentin Tarantino.
No, he was in it, but he didn't direct it.
No,
I
yeah,
think that was Robert Rodriguez directing.
Yeah, so I'll give you a rundown of some of them. So where is his filmography? Oh yeah, there it is. He did El Mariachi, I guess that's pretty well known for that.
Desperado, yeah, I like Desperado a lot.
It's a good one. Dusk Till Dawn, yeah, he did that. The Faculty, I didn't know he did that one.
Oh, I kind of like The Faculty too. Okay.
Yeah. A million Spy Kids movies. Let's not talk about them. Sin City as well.
Sin City is my favorite out of them.
Sin City
Yeah,
was good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. And Machete, I still have some pretty good ones actually.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, probably it would be Dusk Till Dawn for me because I just think that movie's so much fucking fun. It's one of the best swerves I've ever seen in a film. It just totally transitioned into a different genre. Kaylee Fall says, while reviewing Kung Fu Panda the other day, I realized that Master Tigress is the perfect deconstruction of the strong female character.
Well, so for those who aren't familiar, she's essentially in place to be the Dragon Warrior. Everything points to her being it. She's like the best trained, the most ready, the most disciplined. But it turns out to be Po, the panda, the fat panda, who's kind of just a troll. And she has trouble taking it and understanding it. But she has an arc of like, you know, the important thing is to support the person who's going to be able to save the day. And it doesn't make you a less of a person to not be the Dragon Warrior, right? Like, I can see how they're saying that she has to deal with the fact that she's not the most important person in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the problem is Kung Fu Panda is a really good film, so like it's.
I mean, yeah, there's probably like there's yeah.
That is Willow, except in there, you've got the only person that can save the world, and then you've got the girl going, why does everyone care about you more than me? And it's like, you arse. So they didn't play it very well.
There's interesting narrative ground to cover with that, I suppose. Like a character who believes themselves to be the main character of a narrative. You know, they think they're going to be the hero, and it turns out they're really just a sidekick or a minor character, and they've got to grapple with that. I'm like, well, yeah. How do you take that hit to your self-esteem? I think it's pretty cool. You know, a lot of fun with that.
Well, it's a trope, like the kind of goofy main hero guy, and there's like the sidekick who quietly in the background kind of takes care of things, like from Maxwell Smart or Inspector Gadget. So it's a trope.
Yeah, for sure. TGV Monster says, I wonder, how is Lucasfilm making profit? Their last profitable film was TLJ, Rise of the Imposter and Dial of Diarrhea bombed, and these pointless Disney Plus shows get little to no subs. So how? I don't think they are profitable, that's the thing. But when you've got Disney as your parent company, I don't know, it kind of doesn't matter. They're there to subsidize you. But yeah, I'd love to see what their financial breakdown looks like. It must be horrific. Just from a purely box office point of view, I mean, I guess all the revenue, the merchandise from Star Wars products, you know, video games, books, magazines, all that stuff, like that probably contributes towards their profits to some extent. Maybe that helps to balance out. I don't know. And again, I don't know how much it's
burned up the financial motivator of anticipation and spirit for these films. Yeah. Like you had that with the Force Awakens, but you're not going to have it with the Mandalorian film or the new Rey movie. So if you burned that up, I just cannot see any way in which these films can make money and be successful.
Very real and important thing. Hype is what allowed Phase 4 to survive for as long as it did. But like they've lost all the hype for the MCU at this point. You know, I'm saying that as a comparison. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even the benefit of the doubt of just trying something. It's almost like your marketing money goes to waste because it doesn't matter how much you market it. People are going to assume it's crap until it comes out and word of mouth gets out. And even then, they're probably going to want to wait until you've got a track record of success again to counterbalance your track record of failure. So it's going to take a long time for them to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before, haven't we? Like, hypothetically, say they completely turned it around creatively at Lucasfilm. Like, how many good Star Wars movies would it take to get people reinvested in that franchise?
2 to
Or how
3.
many- Yeah, I think that's probably fair. 2, I think, would do it.
I think you'd
that
need
would
a new
probably be enough.
series, though.
It depends
Because if
on,
you
like-
built on Ray, no one's going to want to go back and watch the Ray movies to catch up. After
There's just a
everyone's...
couple of elements, like people don't want to be burned, and it's like I think that if a great Star Wars movie came out and all of us made videos about how that's absolutely true, I think a significant portion of our audience would be like, no.
Yeah.
That's when,
No,
that's when that
seriously.
subcount starts to go down again.
Yeah, it's the principle of the matter.
Yeah, they would be like, fuck them. I don't care if they've made something good, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just love it if they made that the title. That just do it. Just make that the title. Star Wars, the Ray movie. Just make that the title.
I thought you meant call it Star Wars No.
Or Star Wars, fuck them.
That's what I do now. Anyway.
Metal Face Rosie, how many of the issues with modern movies do you think are caused by lack of time or poor time management during production? I don't know if it's time management so much as just a general inefficiency of projects. You know, I talked about this before, like just the sheer number of people that you have involved, poor planning, having to resort to reshoots because you've had poor test screenings because you didn't get the right writers in. All of these things add up, and it just results in bloated productions that are just hugely inefficient, I think. So time management is just one facet of that.
You could just summarize it as management instead, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look at
some of the
Rebel
greatest
Moon.
films of all time have been catastrophic behind the scenes with major
True.
delays and with everything from Apocalypse Now to even Star Wars to The Godfather were
Predator.
hellish to make.
But they were all passion projects from a director who really wanted to make it happen. Whereas, like, none of the projects that you get out of Marvel or Lucasfilm now are passion projects. They're projects done out of necessity. You know, we
Made by
need to
committee
do.
as well, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, we need to do a sequel to Captain Marvel at some point. Like, contractually, we have to make this film happen. I never got the sense that this was a film that anyone was passionate about. It was just something that needed to get made, and we brought in a director that, you know, ticked a few boxes and probably fit the bill. So whatever, that's good enough.
I wonder
That's
if
it.
part of that is to do with what romantically inspires you from your youth. So for George Lucas, if he's inspired by the serials of the 40s or 50s for the Indiana Jones or Star Wars thing, what is the stuff from 20 or 30 years ago that inspires these modern writers? That's kind of a romantic resonance for them that could carry through to making new work.
Star
20 or
Wars.
30 years.
It's just going to be, well, that's the thing.
Well-
Star Wars is just a franchise that references itself now. It doesn't reference the adventure serials or the sci-fi of the 1950s. It's just referencing other Star Wars movies.
Yeah, but do you think that the people who got into Star Wars and who were making it, do you think that they watched Star Wars and that was their dream to really make a Star Wars movie, or did they just do it because it was money and there was a lot of money in the industry?
I think probably for most of them, the thing that they romanticize and the thing that, you know, stirs their passion is the lectures given by their Marxist gender studies professor from college. That's probably the thing that they care about. You know, they're not going to care about the actual franchise or the actual IP. It's just
and the
platform.
ones that do, like, they could just be really bad at it. Like, I think J.J. Abrams, it's hard to tell exactly what's wrong with him. It could be all of it. Like, like it could be that he's really bad at his job. It could
What's
be
wrong with you, JJ? Everything.
Like, what's the single element? It's like, I think we got a complicated error here. He's still not back, right? Like, still not making anything.
Oh
Still
no,
not making
he's in purgatory since like 2019. That's, you know, at least something good came out of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. You know, we nuked J.J. Abrams from modern entertainment because he's an interesting one. Like, I don't think he necessarily had bad intentions. He's not. He never really seemed like much of an ideologically driven guy. He was more just a bit of a talentless, unimaginative.
White comfort.
Well, but that was put out by his company and not by him specifically, and it didn't really get reflected too much in his films. I think his issue is just he's a bit of a talentless, unimaginative hack. Like, he wanted to do a good job, he just didn't really know how to.
And I think it's
I
telling
just like
that
with
if
the earlier chat, one question you could ask somebody, and MauLer's would just be, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
JJ, tell me, please. Why did you do that?
Please explain every film you've made.
But it is telling that if he gets to the point where he has extraordinary power and wealth, and he could do any passion project projects that he wanted, and he opts not to, is kind of telling about how much of a kind of creative soul he perhaps has.
I mean, there was things he wanted to get off the ground. Like there was a lot of projects of his that then got cancelled due to the fallout of Rise of Skywalker. I'm pretty, he was working on TV shows and stuff. They just got nuked.
Yeah,
and it's just like people just didn't want to work with him anymore, which is, you know, I guess that's the career trajectory he's on. Like he'll come back with something at some point, but I'd imagine it'll be relatively low budget because they just won't trust him with anything big now.
Well, and
It's
imagine
bizarre.
like the
amount of other
absolute
people that
lack of
failed.
hype. Like the man who made Rise of Skywalker is coming back.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, you say that. I mean, he's tangentially attached to the biggest production budget of all history.
You talking
Rings
about
of Power.
I was
He
thinking of
literally got
Gladiator.
those two hired.
Oh yeah, he put the word in. They did say
I don't
that.
think I don't think he's got any creative input to. I'd love to get him
no.
and Zack Snyder in a room together and just watch them talk.
It'd be lens flares and slow mo. It'd be amazing. Oh,
I can just imagine a team of scientists just watching their every move. Like, what are these two people doing? What are they
I
about?
almost like miss the days where the worst of him was just lens flares, you know? Like at least he wasn't annihilating everything.
That'd be the
There was
closest.
a time South Park made jokes about this. You can find the episodes where he was known as like the franchise savior.
Yeah.
Franchise killer now.
He brought Star Trek back, and I think that gave people a massively inflated sense that he could fix anything.
He was credited for a while as bringing Star Wars back, right? Like Force Awakens was considered the resurrection, and that he'd saved it from the awful era of the prequels. There was a time where people, because I always tell this sort of story, when I was talking about TLJ for the first time and the YouTube channel started to kick off, I got loads of messages just about how like they destroyed JJ's film with TLJ. But, like nobody has that opinion today. Just it's like no, they're all shit. Like, it's been an absolute annihilation of Star Wars in general. It's just crazy how like all this can happen over time. I still think that TLJ is worth studying as being so bad it like pissed off the normies, you know?
Yeah. It's
Game of Thrones season 8's another one of those.
I don't know. I wonder if there'll ever come a point where the mainstream media just properly turns on it, because there's a kind of grudging acknowledgement that, oh, you know, the film was divisive, and then it's progressed to maybe it wasn't like the ideal movie to have been made at that point. But there's never been an outright recognition of like, yeah, this film was just shit. It was a horrible film. You know, it's not just a case of it being challenging or unconventional or whatever. It's just horribly crafted. I don't think they would ever do that.
They would just sit in the same room and they'd just be enabling each other. Yeah, you're right about those numbers and that math. And if you look at the Rise of Skywalker, if you take these percentage of people who went into the studio and you also did this, and they would just enable each other.
Well, wouldn't the funniest conversation be between Ryan and JJ, and you have to get them to figure out, was the Holdo maneuver something done because she's a smart, awesome, independent woman, or because she was incredibly lucky, like 1 in a million? And JJ's like, well, 1 in a million. Ryan's like, no. that was something she came up with. It was very clever. It had never been done before, and it's pretty awesome. It's like, no, it was 1 in a million.
I think in reality the conversation would be more like, no, Ryan just said like, no, my movie's perfect, and you've got no reason to question anything that I did in it. And JJ just being like, I don't want to fucking talk about Star Wars. Fucking killed my career.
I mean, I'm half
hate this
convinced
franchise.
JJ didn't actually care that much about Star Wars, or he's like a passing fan, you know. A little bit more than a tourist, but less than like someone who's very much actually interested. I could be talking on my ass. I don't actually know him at all. I haven't, but like the clips I've seen of him talking about Star Wars, like the one that always changed my mind so much was when he described Han Solo as the guy with the gun.
I think he understood. He certainly understood the power of nostalgia, and he understood Star Wars, you know, iconography well enough that he could employ them in his film. But yeah, like you say, I don't know if I get the sense that there's a reverence from him or a real passion for that universe. It's more just there's a lot of tools here. There's a lot of things that I can play with in my little sandbox that will probably generate a lot of money because people will be excited by it. That's probably the extent it went to.
If you take all the tropes and if you deliver it correctly, the magic will generate itself. I think that was kind of his belief.
I've said before, I think there's some crazy alternate universe where we got a trilogy of J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies, like Rian Johnson never made TLJ. And I think I'd be curious to see what that would have looked like. I think, ultimately, I think it probably would have just been fairly bland and fairly like predictable, but not too divisive, if that's the right way of looking at
And
it.
that
Like, I
might
don't
have been
think
enough
people
at the
would have been
time.
infuriated by it. I think it ultimately would have just been forgettable.
There was a lot more goodwill back then because people like it that was kind of the first thing that people really despised, that then set people off on the path of why is all this happening. Because I remember I watched the first one, like, this movie is really boring. I watched the second one, it's the most boring thing I've ever seen, so I just stopped. But I never for a second stopped to think why I didn't like it. I was just like, I'm never watching those again, never watch the next one. But it didn't feel like that big a deal to me. And I think it was over time, as they severely destroyed more and more properties that people cared about individually, that more and more people caught onto it, and it kind of grew. But if it was just bland, I think people would have just written it off as, it's just a mistake, and they would have given them the benefit of the doubt in the future.
Yeah.
Well, Kylo Ren was meant to have an arc where he was just legitimately going to become darker and darker and more of a bad guy. So instead, we get up with a kiss of reconciliation.
That fucking kiss, man. The hell.
I think
People still
he's
like
got to-
speculating on whether he gave Rey a Force baby too.
Fuck these films. And it just, I'm genuinely baffled by people who are still so invested that they'll come up with theories now to try and explain the ridiculous shit that happens in these movies.
They're the ones that just want to hope, you know.
Yeah. Elsie Le Pen says, shame about Rooster Teeth closing its doors. I love the early days of Red versus Blue. However, why is this another instance of employees only hearing that they're fired through social media and not their job? That is pretty shitty. Like, I'd never.
Isn't it a stock reason? I've heard that before. That if you tell all the staff first before the public knows, then it causes people to sell stocks and things. So they have to announce to the public at the same time.
Potentially,
Really,
yeah.
could that not be considered insider trading to some extent? Like to use that information to benefit you as a worker of the company, or no?
Well, not if you're the company themselves who are firing people, because it's like you're protecting your assets, I suppose. But from a stock
No, I meant on the
point of view-
workers' half, right? If the workers know they're about to announce that and then they sell all their stocks, could that be considered using
Oh,
information?
right, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with how it works legally.
Yeah, I imagine it could be, yeah, because like ultimately you're using, it's insider trading, isn't it? Because you're using information that you have. It depends, I suppose, if you tell other people. If it's literally just selling your own shares, then it just affects you. But if you were to, have a network of people that you could brief on it, maybe that would count. Marksman of 117B says, Prey used to be Space King, best indie animation. Okay.
All right.
Canada Plus says, Hail panel, any thoughts on Kung Fu Panda films? Where's all this Kung Fu Panda stuff coming from all of a sudden?
Fourth one's on its way out, right? So
I suppose so, yeah. Is that this year?
I've only seen Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2, and I like them both a lot. So that's all I got.
It's their big tentpole feature, kind of sadly, at the moment. Kung Fu Panda 4 coming out this year.
I've never watched a single one of them, so I don't know.
What a shame.
I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
He also says, I was going to get PS5 Wolverine, but after seeing what they did to Batman and Spooderman, I will be happily playing Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 instead.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Kevin O'Neill says, time to rename DEI to DIE because everything it touches seems to burst into flames and die. Mr. Luca says, Drinker, are you watching the fight tomorrow? Probably not. Who's fighting? Is it Fury? I don't know.
Have you guys heard about fucking one of the Paul brothers or whatever fighting Mike Tyson?
Yeah,
I read that.
I just saw that. It was just announced today.
I hope he murders him.
Well, I was like, I don't know how Mike Tyson's doing these days. It just feels like surely boxing is about a hell of a lot more than age, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, he's super old. It's like, yeah, but isn't he like one of the best boxers of all time? Isn't he going to annihilate?
He's still pretty jacked. He's pretty jacked still.
Yeah. Well, I've seen videos of him training even now, and he's still got the speed as well. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that. This one's Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. So, yeah, Joshua's kind of getting old now. I think he's kind of fading out at this point. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how that one's going to play out. The next question is, Michael Brocky says, "What are the 3 dreaded words that you never want to hear when you're making love?" Honey, I'm home. Good morning from Australia. Nice one. Also says, Disney's version of Jedi, justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Seriously, can Disney stop kicking Star Wars in the cock for just 2 minutes? Got2319 says, Hail Drinker, thoughts on the upcoming Furiosa prequel as well as the Mad Max movies in general. Fury Road happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time due to the practical effects and stunts, and I wish more of that was still in Hollywood. I think we all do. As for the prequel, not super excited for it. I didn't really feel like I needed a prequel for Furiosa. I think she worked fine in that movie, but that's really all I needed to see of her. And man, Anya Taylor-Joy's an odd choice. Don't really associate her with action flicks like this, especially gritty ones, but I don't know, maybe
what she can do, eh?
Yeah.
I want to know the backstory of the dude with the guitar strapped to the front of the vehicle. I want to know how he develops his guitar playing skills.
Yeah.
How does he make flames come out the guitar? These are important things. I presume the whole thing's going to be building up to her losing her arm. And again, I don't need to see that. That was just a cool thing about her character. Like, you don't know what happened to her. I don't need to know. It just makes her a bit more interesting.
Oh, those things always work, like how Nick Fury got an eye patch or Han Solo got his name. Those things are endlessly fascinating and necessary.
Well, I know what happens in the film. I got a source that's seen the test screening, basically. So it's yeah.
Without spoiling the film, because I'm sure there's people in chat who care, was the test screening positive or negative?
Yeah, actually, like genuinely, it was pretty positive. To be fair, they've shot a lot more on some green screen and soundstage than they did before with Fury Road. And so this was an early test screening, so there was still some, bit of previs sort of stand-in elements here and there. Visual effects weren't fully done or locked in. But all in all, the response was pretty good, to be fair. Like it wasn't a negative response. There were some crowd pleasing moments. Pretty brutal, pretty like full on action. I think the quote I had from the source was everything that you liked about the first one, but like Miller really goes for it. Like really, really goes for it with this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. From this source was right about plenty of other things in terms of their opinion, and they liked it. So I'm inclined to be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting with George Miller because it's like, he makes a movie like once every 10 years or something.
Like, he made Happy Feet, bloody penguin dancing movies.
I didn't know that.
But he, the movie itself, like, not to spoil it or anything, but for everyone going, oh, it's going to be woke and all this kind of stuff. From the test screening, again, unless they change anything, categorically, she is in massive amounts of danger at all times. And in terms of the action and stuff, she's not physical. So it's very clear that she's at a disadvantage and she's at massive amounts of risk. Obviously, we know she's going to live, but you can be risk from other things which are awful as a woman. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I did wonder if they were going to try and turn her into like the Harley Quinn of the Mad Max universe, just like constantly trying to push her after this. But, if they tell a good story with it, I guess, fair enough. We'll see.
Well, I mean, you can put her in a brutal environment. She was pretty cool in The Northman.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. She wasn't so much a fighter in that one, but yeah, she was good.
Apparently, Hemsworth steals the show. It's his movie. Apparently, he's
kind of why I want to check it out. I want to see what he does. Still feel like they've not given him enough opportunities to do more. Chris Hemsworth, he's a fucking great actor.
Yeah. He's obviously trying to, strike a new path for himself outside of Marvel, which is good. So
I think he's doing well. Funny. Choices are quite varied with what he's been doing, and I think he's doing quite a good job with that. Rather than being typecast.
Because I just like the choice of words trying to stretch out from Marvel, not even necessarily Thor, because Thor isn't even like, who is Thor at this point? And you never know what performance you're going to even get. Neither does he. Presumably, is partly why he doesn't even want to continue with it.
Yeah. Well, he's still finding himself more. You know, these things take time.
Give him a few more movies.
Yeah.
He's got to have another midlife crisis.
Yeah.
As a god.
Mr. Luca says, watch the Ballad of Big Al on EFAP, MauLer.
Yeah, so we know the set is walking with dinosaurs, beasts, sea beasts, the Ballad of Big Al, and walking with cavemen, I think. We did Walking with Monsters, and loads of people were like, now you got to do the entire thing. We were like, okay, maybe. You know how it goes with these arcs. Fun little documentaries, though, from the BBC.
Master of Puppets says, Hail Drinker, having just reached the beach scene in Final Fantasy VII, I think it will get you onto Team Tifa, where you belong. Even my girlfriend was impressed by the scene, despite being Team Aerith. I mean, it's going to take a lot to shift me off from Aerith onto Tifa, but...
Well, and don't you have to have an equivalent Aerith beach scene to be fair?
Well, they both are in bikinis on the
there you
beach,
go, then.
so it's fine. It's just Tifa's more, she's got a lot more to put into it.
I see.
It's funny though because I did a playthrough.
Characterization.
Yeah, way more characterization,
Way more plot.
yeah, spilling over with characterization, you might say. But I was doing a playthrough of it last night, and the designers of that game so fucking know what they're doing with this stuff. Like, there's just a pointless scene where it's Tifa and Aerith. They're sharing a room and they're talking about their deep and meaningful feelings. And everyone's just waiting, like, come over here and spoon me, you know? They're constantly playing with it, but bless them. They have fun with that one. I like it. Mega Spidey Man says, which is worse and why? Flash or Green Lantern? Who's a better driver and why? Any Batman or any Bond? Oh, bunch of weird questions, but okay.
What was the first one, which is worse?
Yeah, Flash or Green Lantern?
What do they mean? Worse at what?
Like, worse as a hero? A worse person? A worse movie?
Well, the problem is there's multiple Green Lanterns, there's multiple Flashes, so...
Well, say if we go on the movie side of things, so the Flash versus the Green Lantern film.
The Flash is
Ryan
worse.
Reynolds.
The Flash is an insult to cinema. I know that the Green Lantern movie kind of is too, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Even from the powers, I think the Flash is just... I've never liked it. It was like, because I watched all the TV series, and every episode is like, I've got a problem, how do I fix it? You could try moving really fast, and then I don't know how to fix this. You could move even faster. It's like, oh, come on.
It's like the anti-Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I mean, these speedster characters, like, you're pretty limited, I guess, in how many scenarios you could put them in.
I need to put out a fire. Well, just move your arms really fast.
Yeah.
Imagine Zack Snyder doing The Flash. It's mostly in slow motion, except normal time when the Flash is.
Whale in Bicephus says, bucket of AIDS or Sweet Baby Ink? I mean, both are pretty damaging, I would say. I'll go with the AIDS.
Wait,
probably.
you skipped the more interesting question.
Yeah.
Who's the better driver, Batman? What was the other one?
Batman or Bond?
Batman or Bond, yeah, that's why it was.
How the fuck do we even answer this?
The point of nerd question.
Bond regularly wrecks his cars.
He's driving an MG.
Yeah, but he's a really
something that-
good driver, though. Like, he's usually dealing with like thousands of people trying to kill him, right? Same with Batman.
Yeah.
Batman,
is it Batman and Robin where like he fires a harpoon gun up to the top of a building and the car just drives up the side of the building?
Yeah.
That's never going to be top for me.
Incredibly based. It must be Batman and Robin.
Yeah. I'll go with that. M8566 says, imagine an Arkham sequel where Brainiac mind controls the Justice League except for Batman, and then Batman has to work with his villains to free them.
Oh yeah, could do that.
That'd be a smart move, and that's why it'll never happen.
Yeah, the bad guys would recognize, like, yeah, we'd rather fucking you be tormenting us than Brainiac, because he's like a horrifying sci-fi creature. But oh well.
Frosty Zipper says, Korea is continuing to put out banger stuff. Watched a show called Happiness on Netflix recently with a great female and male lead who are both badass in their own ways with different strengths and weaknesses and a relationship very much as equals. Would highly recommend. Happiness. Okay. Keep that in mind.
It's unbelievable what South Korea is coming up with. Parasite, Past Lives, what was the other one? One where everyone's got to kill each other before they get the money.
Oh, Battle Royale, yeah.
All that stuff. Train to Busan, just tons of stuff. It's great.
I mean, it's just they're not constrained by the needs of Western studios and so on, so they can just tell good stories still.
It's a different way of doing things. From what the article described, the way they make it is they will sort of pitch at Netflix. So they've already got the show, and they actually have to be like, would you buy this off me? Whereas I got the impression with a lot of other things, it was like, here's $200 million, make us something. And so the money came first rather than earning it.
I like this one as well. Finding out the drinker is Team Eris, that's how it's always going to be spelled to me, warms my cold heart. Well, she warms my cold heart as well. Anyway, side note, have any of you gents seen the Flash Git's original show, Space King? The pilot is promising and has me hopeful for indie animated shows.
I need to see it. I still haven't, but I will.
No.
Flash Git's are great.
Thank you for the donation, though, J-Mac. Appreciate it. I'll do a couple more. Jordan Pendragon says, I had to go at watching the infamous 1980s Soviet Hobbit production. The conclusion, I didn't finish and would need substantial amounts of booze or psychogenic hallucinogens in order to do so. Hallucinogens.
You know you've had enough when you can't pronounce them.
Yeah. It's meant to be a real trip, that movie. Never seen it. I would love to, though.
On the note of hallucinogens, by the way, I don't know if you've seen Seven Psychopaths when Christopher Walken pronounces that word. He says hallucinogens.
Classic Walken.
Yes.
Am I the only one who was just really disappointed by how understated he was in Dune 2?
Yes.
I was expecting him to go like balls to the wall.
I mean, no.
But yeah, nah. Disappointing.
Like, Paul, you're killing me here. What are you doing? You're disrupting my spice production.
His face is so saggy; it looks like it's about to just slop off.
It's kind of melting now, isn't it?
It's a bit old.
Yeah. Cold Brew says, has Chris Stuckman ever reached out to you guys about your criticism of him? Would you have him on open bar for a one-to-one interview? Thanks.
Absolutely. I just don't. He hasn't reached out, and I wouldn't expect him to. Really, I'm sure he wouldn't be happy with our coverage. I don't think. A lot of people wouldn't be. It's perfectly understandable. But if he did want to talk, we'd be happy to do it, and obviously would treat him as well as we would anybody who's willing to come and have a chat.
Fair play.
I mean, obviously, as long as Drinker's on board with that, yeah. I'm not just like saying, he's coming, damn it.
Yeah, I didn't say he could come on open bar. Northern English Bastard says, Dear Drinker, MauLer, and guests, with Masters of the Air falling flat on its arse, check out the new Shogun series instead. So far, it's completely made with good writing and fleshed out characters that act very much like adults. Isn't that nice? Yeah, you guys were singing its praises earlier, and I'm very much looking forward to watching it. Might even watch some after this, actually. But yeah, sounds good. And Taker610 says, we need some quality as Baron Harkonnen memes. Imagine all the funny situations in which you could yell, fucking pronouns, while floating around the room. That could be fun, actually, yeah. We need to get the meme people on it. We'll get our experts to work on it right now.
Uncle, we're still looking for the Atreides. Twat waffle. That should be.
Yeah.
I did see a cursed image. I think it was Krista posted it of Sydney Sweeney in a SNL dress, but each one is just as his face screaming. I'm like, I did not need to see that.
That's Geeks and Gamers. They put that as one of their thumbnail pictures.
Yeah, apparently, I've heard that Jeremy's trying to get her on as many thumbnails as possible.
She is fucking gold when it comes to clickbait.
Yes.
You just put a picture of her on a thumbnail and you'll get 20-30% extra views guaranteed.
Well,
I'm just going to put her on this one. It's like we're not even discussing anything to do with Madam Web on this live stream, but I'm just going to put her on anyway.
I mean, she's been discussed now. It's worthy to put on the thumbnail. We've discussed Sydney Sweeney.
There we go. We've discussed the fact that we haven't discussed her, and that's good enough. Mm-hmm. And on that bombshell, or two bombshells, should I say, we should finish up the stream for this evening, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on for this. Thanks for joining us for the open bar. It's been great talking about Sydney Sweeney's boobs. So, I mean, what can I say? It was all just leading up to that, really. Yeah, but well, I mean, while you're here, do you guys have anything coming up you want to make us aware of? Any videos or anything that you're working on? Going to be releasing soon?
I released a Sweet Baby Ink one earlier today, but apart from that, I'm just going to be spreading managed democracy in the hope that we get what is it? The power armor is meant to be coming. Should be good.
Yeah.
Super.
I got my new video on the demise of the strong female character. So that's gone up there. And Drinker, what are you gonna? You're on the cusp of 2 million subs now. Are you gonna do anything to celebrate or acknowledge the milestone?
Ooh,
No, I'm happy enough in my life, I'll just potter about. I don't know, if I get to that point, I might do a stream or something, a celebration stream. It's just an excuse for me to get drunk again, so...
we could
do
a
whiskey, blah, blah.
Is it would it be close to Open Bar 100? Maybe we can cross them over.
It might be close, yeah. Probably another... Well, I'll probably get to the 2 million before we get to... Open Bar 100 because that's going to be like another 3-4 months away easily. So
yeah, that's like 40% of the population of my country.
Yeah, it's weird. Like you sort of lose the grasp of like in real terms after a while, and you just sort of see it as a number rather than try to equate it to anything because it becomes difficult. But yeah, it's a bit weird sometimes. Like
just
almost
crazy,
2 million
man.
people watching.
2 million
Why?
years you've been running the channel.
2 million, yeah, it's a long time. That's why I look so old now.
Yeah.
But hey, still enjoy it, so that's good. But anyway, for everyone that's joined us tonight, thank you. And thanks for all the amazing super chats. As we always do, we'll catch up on them on Sunday night, probably. And yeah, for now at least, that is all we've got. So go away now.
Bye.
So, yeah.